Welcome to the Friends of Fantasy Benefits Baseball Podcast. I'm Justin Mason, lead fantasy writer and analyst at friendsoffantasybenefits.com. Joining me on this episode, as always, on Monday night is Dave McDonald. How you doing, my friend?
That's me. Doing good. Getting ready for our Earth drafts next weekend, buddy.
Yep, I'm ready. I'm not ready. I'm I'm gonna be fucking just killing myself over the next few days trying to get pitcher projections done.
Yep.
I got my hitter projections done. I'm like just slogging through my pitcher projections and article after article. Thankfully, luckily speaking, like I don't actually have a crap ton of articles this week, probably only 3 or 4. So that's pretty nice. But yeah, just trying to get through my pitcher projections so I actually have, ranks and stuff to work off and a draft sheet to work off of when I get to San Francisco for the Barf League draft on Sunday. It's like, or no, on Saturday. Sorry. It's like one of my favorite days of the year. Me, Sayres, Howard Bender, Doug Thorburn, Jake Crumpler, and a bunch of other people just sitting in a bar in San Francisco drafting fantasy baseball league.
There you go. There's nothing like the live draft experience, especially when it's with you become a community. You become a group of close friends when you're in the same league together. I mean, GLARF has just been everything I was hoping it would be and more. Like, I mean, I got an entire league of people who are willing to travel all around the Midwest to go to different cities. We stay there. We have the host people from that city who show us around. Here's our favorite places to go. We stay together in a house for the weekend. So it's just so much fun, man. I look forward to it every year, and it's been awesome. And looking forward to beating your ass again this year. And
Wait. I don't think you beat my ass last year.
No. The league.
Oh, okay. I mean, yeah. I can only do so much for keep my league up. Like for me, this is I have a personal competition versus you. I won that last year.
Well, sure. When your league sucks, it's a lot easier to be good, man. I mean, No, I will be the first to admit the last 2 years, I did win the overall on Earth the first year.
Yes.
Second year, I was 2 days away from being returning champ 2 times in a row in GLARF. But Sarah I ran out of money and Sarah passed me because it was one of those like weird half weeks where like it ended on like a Wednesday or a Thursday, and I had like spent all my money before that final week, and I had no pitchers going for those 3 days, and she had all of her pitchers going. I mean, she picked up people. It was crazy. She went up like 9.5 points in one day. It was pretty cool though, because it was like she was the one who picked out the charity and everything in Chicago. So it was almost like destiny. But the next 2 years, I've been horrible because I'm a late starter. I don't get into everything until too late. But I think I'm going to be back to being good again this year because I've actually kind of got my stuff together for the most part. I wouldn't say I'm ready yet, but I'm getting there.
Yeah, I'm I don't know where I'm at. So I've
done like a shit ton of projections and everything. So it's not like, you're not.
Yeah. I'm not drafting blind or anything like that.
Right.
But I definitely.
That was me. The last 2 years I was drafting blind, man. I got there and I'm like building a list. I'm like, all right, I don't know. Just trying to figure something out.
Usually by the time Barf hits, I'm like 8 or 9 or 10 drafts deep, right? And so like this year I only did 3 gladiators in November, December. And then I haven't drafted at all. I filled in for someone yesterday. Or not, I guess it was yesterday. For the WERF League draft. I keep wanting to call it WHARF, but it's WERF. Because we have
both.
Yes, we're going to be discussing both tonight.
Yeah.
So Henry Wilson of Fantasy Alarm had a family thing pop up, and I had to he asked me to fill in for him. And so like I got a little bit of a drafting experience there, where like, hey, I'm kind of catering the team to Henry, but I'm the one drafting it. So it gave me a better feel, and it was a fun draft, man. Like, I don't know that WERF has done super well in the rankings, considering like
I do know, and they do not do well. I think they're consistently last. It's you and you're down there. Barf's down there, but WERF I think is below you.
So, but like it was a tough group. It was a tough room.
Yeah.
I got sniped a few times and yelled out. And I did a whole live stream. So if you want to go and catch that, it's on my YouTube.
Is there a lot of you cursing people out?
There was definitely Ryan Bloomfield joined me for the first, I think he joined me after the second round because I was talking so much about how much I liked his team. And after the first couple rounds, and so he joined me for probably the first half of the draft, and there was a fair amount of swearing. I think that went on. I was pretty upset. But we'll talk about that whole draft here in a little bit. We've got a crap ton of news to cover and off-season developments. So why don't we jump right into that? Start with Nick Pivetta signing with San Diego. Do you like this signing? I was actually a little surprised they signed him because they've been talking about really wanting to trade, or potentially have been talking about trading Dylan Cease and cutting salary because they've got some financial issues going on in San Diego right now. So it was a little surprising that they were the ones who landed him. 4-year deal. Are you a Pivetta dude?
Well, they only paid him like $4 million for this year, right? So it's pretty cheap. I'm hearing that they're trying to trade Robert Suarez to free up the money. That seems to be, there's a lot of talk about that. I do like Nick Pivetta, but he, I know it was in April, but I don't think he's past it. He had an elbow flexor strain in April, which is very often a precursor to Tommy John. And I think he's kind of a ticking time bomb where eventually he's going to need it. And, I'm probably not going to be taking any of him.
Yeah, I mean, I've always had a thing for Nick Pivetta, and a lot of people in the industry have had a thing for Nick Pivetta.
Yeah,
but he's kind of the same guy he's always been, and I don't know that this is. When I was talking about it with Paul, I was like, "Oh, well, he's going to San Diego. It's a much better park." And then I looked at the park factors, and it really wasn't that. It wasn't an upgrade for him necessarily, right, especially in terms of home runs, which is where Pivetta struggles with. Pivetta's got really good stuff. He just has a trouble commanding it at times. So I'm probably not any more interested in Pivetta than I already was, and I don't think I'm going to be getting a lot of him this year.
I mean, he's always good for a solid whip and the good Ks, but he's never had an ERA under 4. And granted, there's some luck behind that. He had a 3.3 Sierra the last 2 years, which is probably more telling. But I think Sierra kind of, strikeouts to walk ratio, it doesn't really count the home runs as much. And like you said, he's a guy who gives up, like he always gives up at least 1.3 home runs per 9. Like he's never been under that. And he was at 1.7 last year. So probably there was some regression coming, but I don't trust the health. And he's just not someone I'm really super interested to take.
Yeah. All right. Next piece of news is Cutter Crawford is behind schedule with right knee tendonitis. Are you taking him off your board because of this?
Yeah, probably. I don't think he'll be ready to go to start the season. And, that could be something that bothers him throughout the season too. Cause I mean, I'm assuming he's not going to have any kind of operation on it. And I don't know that he would need one, but these are the kind of things that can bother someone for a while, unless they totally shut him down until he's completely good to go. But in that case, it probably will be at least May before we see him. And I don't think he's good enough to really bother holding on to.
I don't think so either. I have kind of a love-hate relationship with Cutter Crawford to begin with. So something like this is just enough to be like, hey, I'm going to stay away from him. Like he was so good at moments last year and then completely lost at others. And I love consistency from a player, especially from a pitcher. And I just don't feel like you get that with Cutter Crawford. Throw in a knee issue, and who knows how it affects him, how long it affects him for. It could be one of those things where, 2 weeks down the road, he's fine. Or it could be, like you said, like he might not be back until May or June.
Yeah.
And I don't want to draft until I have a concrete timetable and I see him pitching. I don't want to even entertain drafting him. Brian Bayo shut down for a few days with a sore shoulder. How worried are you about this?
Yeah, I mean, this is a guy who I was interested in drafting this year, so that was unfortunate to see. I mean, granted, as of right now, it's only a sore shoulder, but these things move quickly. Like you'll see it in the news, like it'll be sore shoulder day to day, should be back soon, and then like the next update will be, grade 2 lat strain out 4 months. So for right now, like for this weekend, if we don't have any updates before then, I'm just not going to take him. We'll see how he recovers. But again, I think he'll be behind. I don't know if he'll be ready to start the season. And, obviously it's not what you want to see. You don't want to see someone coming in already with an issue.
Yeah, I'm again, Bayo's another one of these guys I've had a love-hate relationship with, and so he's kind of off my board until I see him pitch. If I see him pitch and he looks good, maybe I start to reconsider, but considering this kind of shoulder issue, I'm pretty much out, I think, for right now. Frankie Montas shut down 6 to 8 weeks with a high-grade lat strain. Completely off your board, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, no question. I mean, it's going to be 3 or 4 months at the very least before he's back. And, I'm not a Montas fan. Like, I don't even think I would draft him, period. So I definitely have zero interest.
Yeah, I like Montas when he's healthy, but I don't think he's been healthy in a few years now. And
more than you.
Yeah. So, and you and I were talking about this prior to the, hitting the record button, and I asked you, like, hey, have you ever seen like up close, like kind of his arm action? It looks dangerous. It looks like his arm's gonna fall off. And so, like, to me, like, I'm any sort of injury issue with Frankie Montas, and I'm just like, nope, off my board. Just not gonna do it.
That's fair.
All right, moving right along. Phillies want JT Realmuto to have more days off of catcher. This is interesting because where does he play if he's not catching? Considering you've got Schwarber at DH and Harper in the outfield, or Harper at first base. Does this downgrade you on JTR at all? Because volume is a big part of his value.
Yeah, I mean, I think it has to, right? I mean, you look at Schwarber, their everyday DH. I mean, this guy played, I think, literally 5 games. He played 5 games in the outfield last year. So, like, what can you really expect them to do? You think they're going to throw? I mean, you don't want to put Schwarber and Castellanos out there in the same outfield. That is cruel and unusual punishment for the pitching staff.
They've done it.
I'm sure they have, but it's not something they want to do with any type of regularity.
No.
I don't know. It does feel like there's nowhere really to put Realmuto because, like, Harper's at first, Schwarber's at DH. I don't see what else they're going to do. I mean, he might get an occasional start. Like, he might get, a half a dozen starts there. But, I think you just have to lower your expectations for his plate appearances this year.
I think that's right. Like, I think it's going to be really, really hard for him to volume the way that he has prior to last season. Obviously, missed time last season with injury. But I just have a hard time believing he's going to be able to volume in the way that you want from JTR. He's still on my board. I'm not taking him off my board, but I'm definitely going to downgrade him a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, he's still a catcher, right? Like, he's still going to, for a catcher, he's not going to be bad for sure. He's going to be solid, but it's just there's probably other shots he'd prefer to take.
Yeah. Arizona wants Lourdes Gurriel Jr. to have more days off. Does this worry you?
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think he's off my board at this point. Like, he was a guy I was kind of in between on. I kind of always liked the skills. He had the ability to be like a 25 homer guy with solid average, but they do sit him more than you would want. And, the fact that they're coming out and saying they want to give him even more days off now, I'm like, you know what? It's in a weekly and biweekly change league where you have to leave him in there for an extended period. It's just not worth it.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with a guy like Gurriel, Lourdes Gurriel Jr. is that he needs to have value. He is an accumulator. He's like a prototypical accumulator. He doesn't have a carrying tool in fantasy, so to speak. He just does a little bit of everything. So less playing time is bad for a guy like that. Like, he doesn't have enough power. Like, if he's only going to get like 500 plate appearances this year, all of a sudden, like, hey, that's like a 15 homer guy and like 5 steals. Like, that doesn't do much in fantasy. Especially with where you have to take him. So yeah, I think he's not off my board, but he's definitely being downgraded to the point where I don't think I'm going to end up with Gurriel. And not to say that I would have very often anyways, but that's
plus the his effect on your team average is mitigated by the fact that he's not getting as many
exactly.
if you're getting 700 at bats and you've got a 285 average, that's very helpful. If you have 450 at bats, it's not nearly as helpful.
Yep, exactly. That's why guys like Vlad Guerrero Jr., in spite of like not running at all, or like Yordan Alvarez, but not running at all, they have such values because their batting average is so good. If they plate appearance up 700 plate appearances, not that Yordan does, but Vlad can.
Yeah, Yordan ain't doing that.
Yordan's probably a bad example, but I guess this is why, like, you know, like some people value Yordan and Vlad the same, right? They're like, well, they do the same thing. They both hit 30 bombs and with a good average. Like, no, the good average when you have 100 plus more plate appearances from Vlad Jr. makes him way more valuable.
Plus, at any point with Yordan's knees, he could just be done for the whole season. I mean, it's skills wise, Yordan's better. Like he can hit 50 homers with a 320 average, and I wouldn't be surprised. But I do not trust the health. There's no way.
Yeah. All right, moving right along. We have Giancarlo Stanton has discomfort in both elbows. Are you shocked?
I mean, normally with him, it's the lower body that's the issue. So this is a little different. But no, I mean, they've just been giving him so many days off lately, and he's completely off my board. I have no interest.
Yeah, no, I mean, he's going cheap enough where, like, I wouldn't say he's necessarily off my board, but it's going to be really difficult for me.
Well, why would you want to roster that? Why would you want to roster a guy who's going to be getting multiple days off a week, like 2 or 3 days off every 7 days? He's a
cheap power source. Like he's like, you know, like he's
other cheap power sources who don't get that many days off.
I don't know that there are that many great cheap power sources anymore. Like,
I don't know.
A guy who can hit 30 bombs, like he's hit 27 bombs each life.
How is he going to hit 30 bombs when he has discomfort in both of his elbows? Like what?
He misses time and seemingly hits 27 home runs every year.
Okay.
I mean, like, I'm not saying I think for me the hard part is on top of the missed time, he's also UT only, which I think by the time you get to pick 300, you know, he's going after pick 300, like you may have already had a plan for that UT spot. For me, the difficult part is having to hold on to a guy like that if he's going to miss time, right? Like, if I'm going to stash someone, I want it to be someone who was probably a top 12 to 15 round pick.
Yeah, you
can't hold on to him, and like, you know, he's going to miss time.
Yeah,
like, I'm probably not going to draft him at all. But like, is he off my board completely? I wouldn't say he's off my board completely.
All right, he's off mine.
All right, next item is Trevor McGill. If you will stop playing with the cursor, I can't even read it now. Trevor McGill delayed by mysterious undisclosed minor health issues. I don't know what this means.
No one does. That's the problem. Yeah. I mean, they've made it seem like it's not a huge thing. They say minor health issues. Like, that could be anything. Like, he could have a cold, a hangnail, a blister. I mean, some kind of, or maybe his arm fell off. Like, nobody knows. You know, like it could be anything. I feel like for this weekend's draft, if I don't hear anything else, I would draft him only at a discount. Otherwise, I'm not taking him. He does go fairly late, though, for where I think he goes much later than he should be going. I know a lot of people don't like him. I'm not one of those people, though, so I'm not going to say you like him.
I love Trevor McGill.
Oh, did you happen? You probably didn't listen to it, but Mark Cerebro, who's a great player, he was on Zach's podcast, and he was saying some just horrendous things about Miguel, and basically like, this is how you spot the fish in the room and all that stuff. And I'm like, I really want Cerebro to be in my league. I'm going to draft Miguel and beat him. Like, it's like, dude, what are you talking about? He was just going off on him, saying he's horrible and anybody who drafts him is horrible. And I'm like, okay, this is so far overblown. It's ridiculous.
What was the argument there?
I don't even remember. Like, he was just going off. I feel like he said something about his health. I'm looking at his health track record. I'm like, I'm not seeing anything that concerns me. He was talking about his second half or something. I'm like, he was locked down every time they gave him, like, other than right after when he came back from an injury last year, he struggled immediately, but then after that he was fine. Like I feel like he didn't even blow any. Like if he blew any, it was only like one or two. I don't know. I'll do a deeper dive, but I didn't see anything that concerning.
Yeah, I mean he wasn't as good in the second half, that's for sure. But like,
yeah,
I don't know. Like I think he was pretty unlucky in the second half as well. Just doing like a kind of a cursory look. I guess the walk rate was pretty elevated in the second half. Interesting. Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see. I think I agree. Like he probably is going to be pushed down my board quite a bit until we get some news this weekend. So we'll kind of wait and see. We had been talking about John Gray being a potential closer.
Yeah.
Apparently not. I missed this. I didn't know until you said something before we were talking. When we were kind of talking about Cody Bradford being, potential guy for the rotation. I was like, well, John Gray is going to go to the bullpen. And you're like, nope, you didn't read the notes. I was like, I never read the notes, to be honest. So, are you drafting John Gray the starter?
No, I'm not. I mean, again, so they came out and said, like, I don't know what you're talking about. He's a starter. So they could be lying. They could change their mind. Could be other things. Like, I'm not saying he's not the worst, last round or two pick to see if they maybe make him their closer, but it definitely sounds like wherever that rumor started, it's not really something that they're actually considering. That's what it sounds like. And I don't have any interest in him as a start. He can't stay healthy.
Yeah, no, I don't have very much interest in John Gray as a starter. I think for me, he's kind of a spot starter streamer type.
Yeah.
I would have much preferred him as a closer. That would have been
closer. I think he could be really good, actually. Yeah. Like he has the right skill set, but yeah.
All right. Moving right along, we got Acuna says he's going to take it easy on the base paths. So in the draft I was in on Sunday when I was drafting for Henry, Acuna went in the second round.
He always goes in the second round of these drafts. I don't get it.
I mean, I know you wouldn't take him in the second round. I wouldn't take him in the second round. I wouldn't even take him on Henry's team in the second round. So if you want to eliminate one of the teams when you're trying to guess which one I drafted for Henry, you can eliminate that one pretty easily. Where would you draft Acuna?
I probably wouldn't. I mean, I would, but it would be, I think I actually just said this earlier. I was looking at like a round where I would take him. I think it would be the 6th round would be the point where I would start considering him. Like even in the 5th, there's still way too many guys that I would be taking over him. 6th round is where you start to see a little bit of a thinning out. Like I could see you taking Acuna over, Luis Robert, Brian Reynolds, Seiya Suzuki. I don't even know though. Brenton Doyle, that'd be a tough one. I don't know which direction I would go there, but yeah, I think 5th round. There's too many. I'd take Butler over him. I would take Teoscar over him. So yeah, I can't see myself taking him before round 6. And even then, I'm kind of asking myself if that's silly too, because like all he needs to do is have one setback. He's not going to be running as much. I don't know what the power is going to be like. I just think you're not getting healthy Acuna. You're getting a lesser version. You can't pay up for that.
Yeah, I don't know if I would wait quite until the 6th round, but I can tell you I'd wait long enough where I'm never going to get him. So I think the only places that I'd be really interested in Acuna is in Tout Wars and Labor, and Labor's coming up here soon in a few weeks. You have unlimited IL spots. I'd take the gamble maybe there depending on the price, but in NFBC or even in Yahoo or ESPN, like if you're just playing in regular kind of home leagues, you don't have enough IL spots to roster a guy like that. Like it's just way too long to wait.
Yeah.
And your team can get destroyed in the meantime. And you won't have the roster spots or the IL spots to kind of acclimate or readjust to that. So to me, like I would probably like take him in the 4th or 5th rounds. But I think all those names, like I totally understand. Like, hey, like I love Lawrence Butler, I love Brenton Doyle. I would have a really hard time not wanting to take those guys over an injured Acuna. And I think that's probably the right decision, honestly.
Yeah.
So, all right. Moving right along, we've got Rafael Devers refusing to move off of third base. What Boston will do with Bregman? What will Boston do with Bregman there? A lot of talk. They want Campbell to start, move Bregman to third, Devers to play first DH. I think eventually that is going to happen, personally. But yeah, like I understand why Devers doesn't want to, but at the same time, like he's under contract till 2033. You do what we want you to do.
Yeah, I don't know if you've been listening, but it's getting real kind of awkward. Like they're like asking him, like, what if you're asked to move to DH? And he's like, no. What if you're asked to move to first base? No. Like, I guess we don't need a translation for that. Yeah, like there's a lot of talk that they want Christian Campbell to start at second base. I mean, you've got a guy with an injury. Here's the thing. I'm not saying that he has to permanently move off of third base, but maybe while his shoulder is fucked, maybe it's a good idea to move him off of third. I'm just saying, throwing across the diamond instead of standing on first base and making a lot less throws, or even DHing and not making any throws, might be good for his health right now. I mean, I don't know. It's just you figured they had this figured out before they signed Bregman, but apparently they didn't, or they do, and they're just going to shove it down Devers' throat and say, well, we don't care what you want. This is what we're doing. So I don't know if they're going to, DH him, or if they're going to – there's been some talk about trading Casas. There's a number of directions this can go.
He's a really bad defender. Like, he's not a good defender.
Oh, yeah.
And he's going to get worse as he ages.
Yeah, he's got a bad shoulder. So, like, what are we it makes sense.
Even before the shoulder, he wasn't a good defender.
Right.
But they absolutely should move him. And I understand, like, from a player's perspective, you look at it and you go, well, my next contract, I get paid more as a third baseman. But, like, you're under contract for a really long time.
Yes, 8 years from now. What are we talking about?
Yeah, like that is like, sorry, dude. Like you just need go learn how to play first base.
This could be an awkward situation. I will say I don't know that you should be counting your chickens with Bregman getting second base eligibility just yet.
No, I don't think you should.
Because he's. Go ahead.
Oh, I was talking to Joe Rico, and he was asking me, like, hey, should I include Bregman on my second base ranks? I was like, you can't draft him as second baseman, and I don't know if there's like, he shouldn't be playing second base. He should be playing third. He's a really good third baseman.
Yeah.
And I do think that they want Campbell to come up and take that second base job at some point, maybe even at the beginning of the season. Yeah. So, like, I think that there is very good chance Bregman never plays a game at second base.
I don't know about that, but I mean, I definitely just think like because Bregman's getting shot up the board. He's going like 175. Now he's going like 130 because people are assuming he's going to get second base eligibility, which would make sense. But I don't think you should be counting those chickens just yet. And
no, absolutely not.
I do think that you should, because now Campbell's stock has plummeted. I think now is a good time to buy low on him, just in case he does get that job. You can draft him super late right now. And, if he does end up starting, that could be a big-time payoff pick.
Yeah, I agree there. All right. The Dodgers are going to have a 5-man rotation prior to Ohtani returning to pitching. Does this change anything for you in terms of Dodgers pitchers?
Well, yeah. I mean, because, like, a lot of what Nick Pollock has been spouting out about is, like, he doesn't like Dodgers pitchers because of the 6-man rotation thing. Well, if there's no longer a 6-man rotation, because I don't know, when does Ohtani return to the mound? Do we have any idea on that?
I think early summer. I think there's. Yeah. I think I saw a June return date.
And that could easily be July after the trade deadline. Who knows? Yeah, I think it definitely gives a little bit more credence to Dodger starters now. Like if Yamamoto's going every 5 starts instead of every 6 starts. I mean, I'm not saying I'm even that into him, but I mean, you have to value them more, I think, now.
I mean, I don't know if you have to. Like, I honestly think this. I think it's going to be a 5-man rotation, but I honestly think they're going to do a lot of like extra bullpen games, because like you still have Sasaki, who's not used to a 5-man rotation either. So, and you've got Yamamoto, who wasn't used to it last year, was injured. Blake Snell's health. I think they're still going to do Dodger things. So, like, will this be a traditional 5-man rotation for the first 2 or 3 months of the season? Maybe, but probably not.
Maybe what they'll do is they'll do like a modified thing where they'll keep like Snell on an every 5-day thing or every 5 starter thing, but then like guys like Sasaki, Glass now, maybe Yamamoto, they do every 6-man, and then they throw in the bullpen game.
Yeah, I mean, it probably will be something like that. So, I mean, I think if you're drafting Dodgers pitchers, like you're drafting guys who can get you a crap ton of wins, because they're on the best team in baseball, and
but
for the most part, they're all good. Like I wouldn't. The Dodgers are always going to do screwy things with innings. Like I don't think you can project any of these guys for 170 innings.
But then they're not going to get you a crap ton of wins. Is the point?
I mean. Like you're gonna see guys who are like 14-5 and shit like that. Like, like they don't need 30 runs in the rotation to like load up on wins because this team is just so damn good.
Why? Yeah, but like if you have a guy who never gets 2 starts, though, that is significant.
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna see a ton of 2-star guys.
It's possible. It's possible.
Yeah.
So what about Blake? What about Blake Snell? Are you like? Is he someone you're moving down still?
I mean, I've never been a big Blake Snell guy.
Okay.
So like, and like to be quite honest, there's nobody in the Dodgers rotation that I'm likely going to end up with. I am lower on the Dodgers as a unit, not because and I know some people be like, well, it's because you're a Giants fan. It's not because I'm a Giants fan. No, Yamamoto dealt with injuries last year. Snell has dealt with injuries off and on throughout the course of his entire career. It's his first year on a big contract. In a new park. Tyler Glass now, I think his arm could explode at any moment. Like there's like just so much injury. Like Roki Sasaki, I have no idea what he is at the major league level. Tony Gonsolin might be the only one I actually draft.
Snell had 4 elite pitches last year, though, out of 4 pitches. So I mean, now that he's on the best team in baseball. I mean, if you can get a guy who could be the best pitcher in baseball, and I know he has consistency issues. Like, the first half last year he was terrible, and then he was literally the best pitcher in baseball for the second half. So I get it. Like, but once that guy gets in a groove, he can rattle them off. And maybe he doesn't come into the season cold this year. Maybe he's actually good right from the start. So I have a tough time saying I'm gonna fade a guy like that when you can get him in like the 4th round and get the potential SP1. On the best
you can get Michael King and Pablo Lopez around later.
Yeah, I like both of those guys, but neither of them have Snell's upside.
Oh, I disagree there.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, and I think that both of them have way better floors, which is what I care about for my number one. All number ones have upside.
Both of those, I like both of those guys. I like both King and Pablo Lopez a lot. They both do have higher floors. Their upside is not close to Snell, though.
All right, I disagree.
Okay.
Moving right along, we've got Matt Shaw day-to-day with an oblique issue. I always hate oblique issues. Are you worried about this one?
Yeah, I mean, how many times do you see a guy that you see, there's, an oblique situation, and like how many times is it not he's out for a month or so? I mean, very rarely. So do I think it's day-to-day? No. I mean, unless they're over-reporting here and like he just had a slight, I don't know, bruise on his side or something, but I have to assume that this is probably going to end up being, a multi-week absence situation.
Yeah. I'm kind of playing this one by ear. I want to hear more information. I probably won't draft him this weekend if we don't have more information, because oblique issues could be like 6 to 8 weeks.
Right.
So
I think it's more like 4 to 6 normally, right?
Well, yeah, 4 to 6, 6 to 8. I mean, it depends on the severity, but like that would probably take him out of competition for that third base job.
Yeah.
Right. If he's going to miss a month or all of spring training, he's not winning that job.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's move it along and talk about Mike Trout, and the Angels are coming with a plan to keep him healthy, moving him to right field and DHing more. You do not seem convinced because you said apparently that'll do the trick.
You are convinced that that'll do something, moving from center field to right field. Now he's
no.
All of his lower body.
I wasn't saying it did. I'm just saying you don't seem convinced.
No, of course not. That doesn't mean shit. I mean, it's like moving slightly less is going to really be the thing that saves it. I mean, the thing that I think people forget about is it's not just that he has a litany of lower body injuries over the last, I don't even know, 7 years or so. He also has a rare back condition. I'm not even going to, oh my God, costovertebral dysfunction, T5. It's a condition that affects the joint between the rib and the upper back. And I'm pretty sure that's not something that goes away. So that's something that he's just always going to have to deal with. And I think after last year, I don't think anyone has any faith that Trout, including the Angels, that Trout can steal bases and stay healthy. So what kind of Mike Trout are you going to get this year? Look, he's still a great talent. Don't get me wrong. Like, I get the appeal, and this is going to be a pick where come main events, he's going to be going a lot higher than he's going right now if he makes it through spring training, and he's good to go. But I'm not going to get drawn in. I'm not taking him.
Yeah, I'm probably staying away. It's tempting because, I mean, it still is Mike Trout, and on a per plate appearance basis, he's still just a fantastic player.
Yeah, that's not the point, though.
Yeah, it's just the amount of time he does miss. Yeah, so, all right, we'll move it right along. Gavin Lux looking like a super utility player rather than a starter. Does that move him down for you?
Yeah, I don't think I'm really going to be interested in him. I wasn't super interested anyways because he was always, I think, going to be just versus righties to begin with. I know he's a great American. I think there's some potential there, but it's not really where I want to put my focus, to be honest.
All right. I love Gavin Lux, but if he's not going to be a full-time player, it becomes really, really difficult to roster him. Now, this is a team that deals with a lot of injuries quite often. Like, I think he'll find his playing time. I just don't know if he's ever going to live up to the hype that I think people like me and other people in the industry had for him at one point. I think this may be just one of those guys that, like, hey, he's going to be a good role player the rest of his career, but maybe not the superstar. I love him in Cincinnati because it's a great place to hit. Yeah. But if you're a strong side platoon bat that's like a super utility guy, like, I don't know if that's going to be enough for him. So I may need to lower his projection quite a bit. The Tigers could let Kerry Carpenter face more left-handed pitchers. Are you excited? Because I love me some Kerry Carpenter this year.
I'll be honest with you, no, because I don't think he can. I don't think that is something that's going to stick. It's like a 220 at bat, something like that. 134 plate appearances, so not a ton, but he's only hit 202 with 4 homers in that span versus lefties. I've watched him face lefties. He just looks lost. He didn't hit them very well in 2023 in the minors either. I'm very skeptical about him being able to hit lefties enough to where like he'll play every day against them. I get the appeal because he's a hell of a hitter versus righties. Like he is, him and Jock Peterson, they're pretty elite versus righties. I just don't think either of them are ever going to see full-time plate appearances.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see, like, maybe if we see him in spring training, if he looks better versus lefties or not. I will say that I think the division's pretty righty loaded. So yeah, because the White Sox only have one lefty. The Guardians only have no lefties in their rotation. The Twins have no lefties in their rotation. And who's the other? I don't even remember who the other team is right now. The Royals. The Royals have, I think, one. Is it one lefty?
Definitely have Reagan's.
So they have two. They have two lefties. Chris Bubik is. In that rotation. So but that's a pretty right-handed heavy division. So I did the projection on Kerry Carpenter, and he was probably the guy I was the most surprised about. Like, he was way higher in my projections than I really thought he was going to be.
I'm not saying don't draft Kerry Carpenter. I'm just saying draft him with the expectation that he's just going to be a strong side platoon guy. Yeah.
All right. Let's move on to the next section. Let's talk about some offseason developments. These are going to be a lot of things that I don't really care about, that I think more people are going to care about than me. But Some of them are really interesting. CJ Abrams added 10 pounds of muscle, feels faster, bigger, stronger. He showed up to camp early. Best shape of his life. How much do you care about this?
Yeah, like a lot of this stuff is going to be that type of stuff. And look, sometimes this stuff does not matter, especially stuff like this, like, oh, he gained all this muscle and blah, blah. But then there's other stuff here, like this guy's adding this pitch. Those can be significant. In this case, in my opinion, I think that Abrams is a very talented player. He's got the pedigree. I think he's a young kid. He made some mistakes last year, and I do think that he's trying to make an effort now to be a lot more serious about things this year. So I could see that being a significant development there. The problem is I don't think he's going low enough right now. Like, I mean, I know that he still did well last year, even despite all of the issues, and that's kind of another thing in his favor. Like if he can put those numbers up while kind of struggling through the year, I mean, there's a lot of upside there. But he's going 52nd. I was expecting him to go kind of more towards the 70, 80 range.
Oh, so, really?
I don't know.
I think you're undervaluing how good CJ Abrams is in fantasy.
Okay, well, no, that's fair. I mean, he
was a 20-30 guy last year.
Right. The thing is that he did hit 246. The average is never going to be good.
Yeah, no, but if you compare him with like a Freddie Freeman.
Yeah, but he also in the second half he hit 203 with 5 homers. So the question is, are we going to get more of the guy from the first half who hit 15 homers and hit 268, or the guy from the second half?
Well, he put on 10 pounds of muscle. Of course we are.
Yeah. So I don't know. I think he's interesting. I think he's a guy who there's certainly some risk with, but obviously there could be a big payoff too.
All right. Next bit of offseason developments. Jordan Hicks added 14 pounds to prepare for full season starter workload. I do not care about this.
Yeah, I don't really care about that.
This honestly, remember when Luke Weaver did this? He was like, "Oh, I added 20 pounds of muscle in the offseason," and then he was terrible. Yeah, like adding muscle for a pitcher is not always a good thing.
No, and you can make your arm a lot more stiff and not as, I don't know what the word would be, lithe, maybe. Yeah. No, I don't really care too much about this. I know that Hicks is trying to stay healthy, but I don't think that adding 14 pounds is really going to do anything for that.
No, and I mean, honestly, a lot of times, adding weight quickly or losing weight quickly, is not beneficial for guys. It can mess with your timing. It can mess with your flexibility. I understand Jordan Hicks wants to be a full, hey, I want to be able to go 5 or 6 innings every outing. And I want it his role should be just a premium multi-inning reliever. That's what his role should be. And I understand he doesn't want to do that because the next contract will be, really dependent on how much, how many innings he can go. But I don't think this is a great idea. So Hicks wasn't on my board to begin with, or a guy that I was going to be at least targeting.
Yeah.
With. No. He's not anymore at all. So Clay Holmes has added a new kick changeup. I saw a video on this actually earlier today. And so I've seen a little bit of this. What do you think?
Yeah, I think being a starter now, as a reliever, he had 2 pitches. He had the sinker and the slider. The slider is really, really good, and the sinker doesn't get, the whiffs, but it has usually pretty good results. So I can see this, I can see him looking good as a starter with that 3-pitch mix. I think with the success that we saw last year from guys like Crochet and Reynaldo, I think you have to kind of take this seriously.
Yeah. So the video I saw on it was a video on TikTok. I can't remember the name of the woman. I think Caitlin or something like that. She was the one who was talking about it, and she showed video of the actual pitch. Apparently he is, it looks really good, but he's also been tipping it. And so that's going to be something we need to watch for. Is this something that people can pick up on it? I think he needs that 3rd pitch. I think he needs another pitch, in the arsenal. So, but I this is what I want to see. I missed out on Michael King, right? Like Michael King transitioned into being a starter. I wasn't ready to pay the price on him last year. I'm probably going to miss out on Clay Holmes too. I'm okay missing out if I'm unsure on a guy, and I'm really unsure on Clay Holmes as a starter.
You're on a guy going around pick 300. Like I don't know why. Like why?
Well, I mean, like you and I were discussing prior to the show, like we were talking about Frankie Montas, right? Like, and you asked me like, well, did you like him before the injury? And I was like, I didn't dislike him, but the problem is he goes around a lot of guys I like, and Clay Holmes goes a little bit before, and goes around guys that I like, right? Like, I'm a fan of David Festa.
I love David Festa, but he's not in the rotation, so I mean.
Yeah, take a gamble that he will be by opening day. I mean, like,
okay. I mean,
like right. You look at this is a conversation about a different guy. So like, but we can have a David Festa argument.
But I'm saying like, I'm not seeing many guys going around where he goes. There's a couple, but
DJ Hers goes there.
DJ Hers is also potentially not in the rotation. So like
Cody Brad, I think DJ Hers is definitely in the rotation. Who is the Nationals putting in the rotation over DJ Hers?
Go look.
Does roster resource not have? Wow, they don't have him in the rotation.
Yeah, what do you think I'm?
There's no reason Michael Soroka should be in the rotation over DJ. That is a war crime.
They paid him $9 million. I can assure you, he will be in the fucking rotation, dude.
Oh, that is terrible.
Oh yeah, it's horrific. I wouldn't have paid him $1 million, but this is the world that we're living in. So he's absolutely 1,000% in that rotation.
All right. Well, that sucks. Anyways, yeah, I mean, there's a number of guys who I just prefer who are going after. So I'm probably.
Are you sure that they're in a rotation? Because we can keep going.
Oh, I mean, like, let's see, Cody Bradford.
Yeah, as of now, but Cody Bradford, before all this, they were saying he was not going to be in the rotation. So I don't know. I don't know what's going on in Texas, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Nick Martinez. Give me my boy Nick Martinez. He's definitely in the rotation. I'll take Chris Bassett.
Okay, I'll definitely take Holmes over Bassett.
We'll see. All right, let's keep it going. We've got Jackson Jobe adds 2 new pitches. Oh, sorry, Christopher Sanchez adding a new pitch, cutter. This I'm really interested in.
Yes, very, very interested in this.
Because I love Christopher Sanchez, but he's a fucking whip killer. And he needs that extra pitch.
Yeah, and I mean, if you compare Christopher Sanchez to like early Framber Valdez, they're very similar guys. Heavy ground ball pitchers, similar pitch mixes. And Valdez used to be like a 1.25 whip guy. Now he's like a 1.1 whip guy. And I mean, we've seen Sanchez in 2023 in only 100 innings, but he had a 1.05 whip. Then last year's back up to 124. So yeah, with the third pitch to kind of keep guys off of his changeup, I love him adding this cutter.
Yeah, I do too. Like anything that might get some more swings and misses, or at least give him a complete arsenal. I'm all for it. Like I think Christopher Sanchez is a guy that is a change away from taking a massive step, and so this could definitely be it. Now, I always want to preface any discussion about adding a new pitch is meaningless until we see them actually throw this pitch, right? Because like in a game setting, because we see this all the time. Guys add a pitch and then they never fucking use it.
Right.
So I definitely want to see like in spring training, like, hey, is he throwing this 10% of the time or more? Because if he's not, then I do not care.
Yeah, and adding a pitch and using it a relevant amount are two different things. But I still like Christopher Sanchez without the cutter, but with the cutter, it definitely has the potential to take him to another level. So, but keep in mind too, this is the team that, I mean, they all have a cutter on this team. So I think it's like philosophically part of their approach. I didn't understand why he didn't have one last year. So I just feel like it only makes sense that they're going to kind of encourage this development.
Yeah, I'm with you. All right. back to the thing I started to say before you realized I had skipped something. Jackson Jobe adding 2 new pitches, a curveball and sinker, looks to generate more swing and miss and 2-strike counts. I love this for Jackson Jobe, but is he in the rotation?
Right, yeah, I love it for Jackson Jobe too. I think he is in the rotation. I think they came out and said he is in the rotation. I think it's Skubal, Flaherty, Olsen, if Olsen is healthy. I forget if there's something going on with him or not. Casey Mize and Jackson Jobe. And I think they said that Kenta Maeda is like their 6th starter.
Yeah.
Yeah, like who else would it be? There's no one else that would be. Yeah, so he's in the rotation. And, I think he came up and, I think people were expecting a lot of him. I mean, he only had 4 innings last year, so I don't know. But, he didn't blow people away in those 4 innings. But I think that his stock is kind of down from where it initially was, and adding 2 more pitches to his arsenal for a guy who throws, 97 with a cutter and a change and a sinker along with his fastball. And then if he's adding 2 more pitches to that, yeah, I'm interested.
Yeah, Jackson Jobe currently going at pick 262. I'm fine with that. I think that's a really good spot to take a gamble on a guy like Jackson Jobe.
100%.
Yeah, like going around Reese Olson, Walker Buehler. I do love Jeffrey Springs, but I think Ranger Suarez. Like I would take him over all of those guys except for maybe Springs.
I think the only pitcher up to Nick Lodolo. I think Nick Lodolo is the only pitcher above him that I wouldn't take. I would take him above everybody else other than Lodolo. I would take him above Gavin, Luzardo, Buehler, and Jeffrey Springs. Reese Olson, that's close, but I think he's got more upside.
Yeah, I think Springs is the only one that I would take over Jackson Jobe out of that group. So
Springs, I'm more concerned with the injury concern. So
yeah, I can understand that. I'm not going to fight you on that one. I think if Springs is healthy, which he was at the end of the season, he's a really good pitcher.
At the end of the season, he was shut down with elbow fatigue, so we'll have to see.
Yeah. Ryan Weathers lost 20 pounds. I think this goes back to our previous conversation about Jordan Hicks. I do not care.
Well, yes, but I do love Ryan Weathers. So
okay.
I don't know if the 20 pounds is going to help him.
Talk me into Ryan Weathers, because I know a lot of people in the industry like him. I have never been a huge fan.
I don't have my notes open. Sorry. So his sweeper is elite. Like 51% whiff rate is crazy good. His sweeper is also just a notch below elite. 38% whiff rate. Both of them get really good results. His 4-seam, however, is not good. So he just really needs to, he's got 2 elite pitches, and I think he's just one little tweak away from being taking a big step forward. And there were times last year where he looked really, really good. So he's a guy who, going as late as he does, he has the tools to be a legit fantasy. I mean, he goes 360, who else are you taking down there that has that kind of talent? It's not close for me. He's by far the guy I like the most, going after 320 or even 300 for that matter.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are other guys that interest me down there, but nobody who's standing out is oh, I have to take this guy over Ryan Weathers. So maybe I need to do some more watching of Ryan Weathers. Being in Miami kind of keeps him off my radar a little bit.
Well, yeah, the thing that people always come back with is, oh, he's not going to get any wins. And I come back with, you're not drafting a guy at pick 350 for wins. If you're relying on a guy that late for wins, you did something wrong. This is not how you should be approaching this. You're looking for skills that can translate to a guy having a breakout, and he absolutely has that. I mean, this is a former first-round pick too. He's got the pedigree, everything's there for him to succeed, I think. Some guys just don't break out right away. And by the way, side note, John Fish, when we have the Friday night Fish calls, we got a bunch of people on there and everything. We make side bets and stuff. I made several side bets with people straight up Frankie Montas versus Ryan Weathers, who would be higher rated on the Fangraphs Player Rater at the end of the year. So
it's looking pretty good for you. So
Weathers doesn't suck, because that's the thing. So last year I lost a bet to someone who had a guy who missed the entire season because the guy that I had going against him had a negative score. So negative is worse than 0.
I've had bets like that before. And that, I don't know if there's a worse feeling than losing a bet like that, where it's like you're like, oh, this guy's gonna be better than this guy, and like one guy is like truly so terrible it didn't matter. It's like so. The first year I ever played in the Gladiator format, my first ever Gladiator team, I would have won the league had I not drafted Alec Manoah. If I had drafted you, as opposed to Alec Manoah, I win that league. But he like dragged my entire team down. Like it just so
there's nothing worse, and only starting pitchers can do that to you too.
Yeah, absolutely. Adolis Garcia has adjusted his swing, healthy after knee injury. He played hurt through last year. I'm a little bit intrigued. I feel like Garcia's ADP is a little bit too low, and I've seen him drop in some drafts where I go, oh, like he's like gone from being overrated to way underrated. Going to pick 152 over the course of the last 2 weeks.
Yes.
Like that feels kind of like a steal, doesn't it?
It does. In fact, we will discuss this later because he is my pick later. So I'm very encouraged by this. And I do think that he was playing hurt last year. And, maybe sometimes when guys get hurt, they mess up their swing. They kind of get out of the groove, and, they never really find it again. And I think that's all it takes for him to get back on track. He's in a great lineup. He should be in the middle of a phenomenal lineup. The other thing is the Rangers Park played so pitcher friendly last year, and it never has before. So I think easily that could reverse this year back to being a really good hitter's park. And there's just a couple of things that could happen here, and he could blow up again and be, provide 3rd, 4th round value for you, getting him way later.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I really like good Dolis, Adelise, I can't remember. But Garcia, I think this is a really good opportunity. And the fact that he is healthy coming into 2025, for me, is like a really, really good sign that, we'll get back to him being. Now, there is downside with him because there are some bad underlying skills at times, but dude just rockets the ball. And he's a great defender, so he's going to continue to play even when he struggles. So I think that Garcia is the guy that I'm going to be ending up with on a number of teams this year.
Yeah.
We've got Nick Lodolo came to camp in the best shape of his life and healthy for the first time.
Yeah. I don't care about the best shape of his life, but I do care about him being healthy, though. Because I think, I think he's a guy who gets the rap as like someone who can't stay healthy, but it hasn't been that long. And I don't see anything in his history that scares me moving forward. So he has ace type stuff. So this is still a guy that I'm very much in on.
I love the skills. I really love the skills. Those one skill that Nick Lodolo hasn't shown yet in its health. But I am optimistic, or not optimistic. I'm hopeful on Lodolo. And I think I picked 246.
Yeah.
I think that's a worthy gamble. I really do. And I know he pitches in Cincinnati, which is a tough place to pitch. But even when he was on the mound last year, yes, the overall numbers didn't look very good. It was a 4.76 ERA and 115 innings, but he only gave up a homer per 9, right? I think he just got a bit unlucky. Look at the xERA; it was 3.72, and he still was dealing with health issues. I'm very interested to watch Nick Lodolo. If Nick Lodolo looks like the guy we've seen before in spring training, I think he's going to be a guy that I push up my board.
Yep, he stands out like a sore thumb for that ADP range. I think he's an obvious target.
Kevin Gausman got fat.
You mean sturdier, sir? That's the terminology. Yeah,
that's the terminology we're using nowadays. Okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. I thought that was hilarious because you see all these people coming out saying this guy gained all this muscle, this guy lost weight, and then they just say Kevin Gaussman is sturdier. I'm like, let's say fatter, dude. Like we all know what that means. Probably doesn't mean anything. Like I'm not going to really like downgrade him because of it, but I'm not upgrading him either.
Where are you at on Gaussman this year?
Yeah, it's a tough question. Because early in the offseason, I think I even tweeted about it, like I thought I was going to be more in on him than I am. He's tough. He's really tough because he's so reliant on that splitter. And if he doesn't have that splitter, then he doesn't have anything. So I don't know. Like I think the splitter will be there, but I'm also looking around and like he's going like pick 167. There's other guys around there. Like it's not really a pitching part that it's not a part of the draft that I love the pitching in. There's a lot of hitters around there that I like more, but I just don't know. I don't know that I see it. Like I think I might rather take a shot on Robbie Ray even.
I can understand that. For me, like Gaussman's one of those guys where I kind of feel the same way as you, where it's like I know the skills are declining, and he's just not the pitcher that he has been in years past. But like he's still going to throw a lot of innings, and I think they're going to be innings with like decent ratios, and he can volume the strikeouts. For me, it's going to be draft to draft dependent. What does the rest of my rotation look like rest of the way? Do I need a stabilizing force?
Yeah.
A guy that I can pencil in for 180 decent innings that has some upside, but really not a lot of downside. I mean, last year was, I think, kind of the floor, right? And it was a 3.83 ERA with 181 innings. That translated to 162 strikeouts. Like, that's fine. Like, if that's your number 5 or something like that, yeah, I'm okay with that, especially if you started off a little bit riskier in the top of your rotation. I'm actually totally fine with that, but it's going to be very draft to draft dependent. If he drops, like, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think especially in a 15-team league and a deep league like NFBC, I think he has more value than in the 12-teamers and like kind of the shorter bench ones where you can kind of just build an all-star team almost. Like I don't think you need him as much there. But yeah, you're right. I mean, the innings that he provides can definitely be a stabilizing force, and I do think it's roster construction dependence. And yeah, I think we'll see this spring whether I think we'll probably have some idea of whether that splitter is there or not.
Yeah, I'm very I'm almost ambivalent on Gaussman this year. It's kind of like, yeah, all right, I don't feel bad or great or anything in particular, but I have drafted him this year. So like 167, like fine. People were taking him in like the 4th round of years ago.
Yeah.
So, right? Like,
if you look at his stats, I mean, until last year, his K rate was between 10 and 12 K per 9. Then it was down to 8 last year. So like those are two radically different guys. If he volumes for you and gives you a high K rate, now you're cooking. I mean, even with a 1.2 WHIP, if you're getting the 3.1 ERA with a 11.5 K per 9, you're happy with that.
Yeah. Next piece of information: Alejandro Kirk is in the best shape of his life and will be counted on catch more than he ever has. I have heard this story before. He came in the best shape of his life a couple of years ago.
I believe he's in A shape. I don't know that shape
is it pear.
Yeah, I don't know that shape is the shape that people are looking for, but yeah, I mean, like the one thing I will say, you're looking at their depth chart. Tyler Heineman is the guy behind him, like 34-year-old journeyman catcher. Like it does look like they're going to be counting on Kirk to be the man behind the plate. I don't know how that's going to go. And just like he's been all promise, ever since 2022, he had 285 with 14 homers, and people are like, oh, dreaming on more. He was there's just been nothing since there. I can't buy in.
Yeah, like I just don't think there's enough in terms of like the power there.
Yeah.
Like I think he can hit for a decent average. I think like him playing every day is great, but like talking about a guy who's a career 9-degree launch angle. like he just does not elevate the ball enough. And I don't think him being in the best shape of his life is definitely going to change that.
Right.
So like maybe like the upside on him is like a 270 average with like 15 home runs. Does that move the needle that much? Like it's good. Like I'll take that as my second catcher.
Right.
But it's not like I'm not like falling over myself to run like and grab Alejandro Kirk 2 or 3 rounds ahead of ADP.
No, there's better shots to take. And like his last 800 plate appearances, he's hitting like 251. Like, okay. That's not helping you in the average.
All right. Next guy on the docket, Trevor Rogers, fastball currently sitting at 93, supposedly, and 93 is much more effective than 92 or lower. 93 at this point in spring is really interesting because like I already mentioned during this episode, guys add velocity as spring and the summer go on.
Right. Yeah, and so that's the thing. This fucking guy, I don't know how, but for like the last 5 years, he's sucked me in every goddamn year. And I think it's going to be 6. He's shown elite abilities before, and you just keep thinking like maybe he can get back to that. He used to throw 97 at one point too. This isn't a guy who, is a soft tosser. He became that later, but I mean, like you said, if he's already at 93, but here's the thing. I don't know if he's sitting 93 like over several innings of like he's probably just doing bullpens and stuff. I don't know. I need to see the velo in the spring over, 4+ innings. I know that he might be able to pump it up to 93 in an inning or two, but I need to see that over a longer period of time. But we're talking about a guy going to pick like 660.
Yeah, he's free.
Yeah.
Like,
he is.
I know a lot of people yell at me when I say somebody's free, but he's legitimately free. Like,
that is legit free. That 660 is legit free. I really think that when it comes to the end of your draft, you can do a lot worse. Wait, actually. Oh, so I looked on Roster Resource. They still have him on the IL, so I don't know what's going on with that. Let's see. Oh, unlikely to be ready for opening day after suffering a right knee subluxation in January. Missed that. Okay.
Well.
All right
not
then.
So much then.
Okay. Well. All right, we can cancel that, but I guess something to keep an eye on when he comes back.
Yeah. Put him on your watch list. All right. Next guy on the docket, we've got Kyle Harrison. Had a velo dip last year, corrected issues with delivery. It says his velo is back where he wants it now. I do not care about Kyle Harrison. I do not think Kyle Harrison is a very good pitcher.
I agree.
I think Kyle Harrison would be a dynamite reliever.
Yeah, because like he used to have control issues, and then he kind of got the control issues under control, but now he doesn't strike guys out anymore. So yeah. I feel like we're kind of just getting a depleted version of him, and he's a guy who I've never had interest in.
He's one of those guys that when you see him in short spurts, and I don't know if you were there at Arizona Fall League when Kyle Harrison was there.
No.
But like when we saw him at Arizona Fall League, you were like, whoa, okay. But he was throwing like 3 innings at a time.
Yeah.
Like he wasn't throwing, but like as a major leaguer, you can see like he wears down as the start goes on. He comes out on fire in the first inning, and as the start comes down or starts going on, like he wears down fairly quickly. Like I feel like he is a very Jordan Hicks type of player. Like move him into a multi-inning relief role or make him a dynamite closer. But as a starter, I really don't care about him.
And that's why I say to be careful with spring training velocities, because you'll see guys pump it up when they're throwing an inning or two. We need to see when they start getting like 4 innings, can they maintain the velocity?
Yeah. Jackson Holiday looks bigger and stronger. Well, he is getting older. He's now 21.
Right. Yeah, I think a lot of the shine is off him, and I think a lot of people are going to regret that. Like I think I mean the kinds of jumps that players can make from age 20 to 21 are huge. He's a kid. Like he's still growing into his body. And I'm not saying he's going to be like a finished complete product, but there were times last year where he was legit like looking really, really good. And when we're talking about the second base position and how late he goes, I'm definitely interested. Sounds like
I think Jackson Holliday is going to be a very good player at some point in his career. I just don't know when it's going to be.
Right, but at some point you're going to be paying up for it. Right now you can get him at 225.
Yeah, but you know who you can get later, who I think is already better than him, is Colt Keith. You can get Colt Keith at 243, and he's going to gain first base eligibility, which is a much shallower position at that point.
I'm going to need you to convince me on this because I don't have Colt Keith as anywhere near the talent that Jackson Holliday is.
Oh, yeah, Colt Keith. I think Colt Keith is a dude. Now, will Jackson Holliday ultimately end up being better? Yes.
We're just talking for this year. We're just talking for this year.
For this year, Colt Keith is a more finished product, I think, than
that's not what we're asking, though. Who has more upside? You said he had more upside.
For this year, yeah, I think Colt Keith does.
Okay.
And I think he's much more likely to reach that upside than Jackson Holliday. Colt Keith has like 60 grade power in the bat. He's already shown really good contact skill at the major leagues. He's going to be playing every day. Not that I don't think Jackson Holliday will get the opportunity to play every day, but we also saw him get sent down. We've seen the Orioles do things with their young talent where, hey, if you don't hit, we're trying to be a playoff team. You're going down. I think they've got very similar upsides. I probably give a little bit of an edge to Colt Keith, but just at least right now. That being said, I think the downside on Jackson Holliday is in the minor leagues where Colt Keith is going to be playing every day for the Tigers.
Okay. I mean, I agree that the downside is more with Holliday, but I think the upside is much higher. I think he's definitely got more power and he's definitely got more speed. So I think it just comes down to whether he hits enough. And a lot of guys come up at age 20 and struggle. This is a guy who was the number 1 overall pick. This is a guy with an immense pedigree. I would put my money on Holliday over Keith this year. I do think it's interesting that Keith's going to get first base eligibility, but I don't know how much you'd be playing him at first anyways.
I mean, I think it depends. Depends on what you did at first base. So, all right. Moving right along, we have MJ Melendez is a new swing, or is kind of revamping his swing and approach, making a little change there. I love MJ Melendez, and I think this is great news. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I loved him when he was in the minor leagues. I haven't seen that guy, though, and he's been a straight platooner since coming up, and he's in a terrible offensive park. So sell me, I guess, on MJ Melendez.
There's a ton of power in that bat. We've seen it at times in the major leagues. Dude just needs to make a little bit more contact on a consistent basis. But I think he's gotten away from the approach that kind of made him successful at the beginning of his career. And we saw his walk rate dip. Started, his first season, his rookie season, the 12.5% walk rate, down to 7.5 or 7.8% last year.
Yeah.
I think an approach change, being more patient, waiting for his pitch, is going to be really good. And if he can make any more contact than he is, he's been kind of an 81 to 80 or 80 to 82% kind of zone contact guy throughout his career. If he can get to like 83%, which is 85 being league average, watch out. I think MJ Melendez, he's got enough power in that bat, he could really be making a difference.
Last 2 seasons, his zone contact rate has been about 78%. So,
that's carried down by the 76% in 2023. So,
79.4 last year. So, for someone like you who values that stat a lot, I was surprised that you were into him.
This is what I mean. He needs to make improvements. And so, if the swing change makes improvements, this will be something I'll be watching in spring training. If he's making more contact in spring training than I'll be in, I have not drafted him yet. So, and
he's going around pick 400 too. So that's
it's fairly close to being free.
Yeah.
We've got Francisco Alvarez. He's revamped his swing. This could be interesting too because this is another guy who just swings and misses way too much.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you. He was someone I kind of had off my radar, thinking, I mean, the thing is, you don't want to judge these kids too harshly. Like, he's 21, he's 22, 23 years old now. When he came up, he was 21, hit 25 bombs with a 210 average, and then last year, he was slow. I forget what his injury was, but he missed a good amount of time. I think last year he only had 11 homers, but in 342 plate appearances with a 237 average. But this is a guy who I think that, he's playing hurt last year. I mean, he had a 12.5% barrel rate in 2023. This is a guy who has plenty of power, and I think he has enough contact too. High pedigree, projections still like him. I mean, the average is not going to be great, but I think he can be usable considering the power he can give you.
Yeah, I think, the power is immense. And I definitely interested. I do wonder how much of the injury last year kind of made him change his swing, because we saw him only have I think it was like an 8-degree launch angle, 7-degree launch angle during the course of the season. But he's always kind of been a high ground ball rate guy. So I'm interested to see this kind of new swing. He's been a guy that I don't really draft because of all the swing and miss and the launch angle issues. But if he's elevating in spring, I might get interested in a hurt.
Yeah.
Miguel Vargas lost weight, went to the gym regularly, added 20 pounds of muscle. Once again, I don't care that much. I care a little bit just because Miguel Vargas is kind of a bigger dude. And so hey, maybe this helps a little bit, but I don't think Miguel Vargas is. I think he's going to end up being a better real life player than a fantasy guy.
I don't know. I mean, so he was a guy who had a lot of people were high on him in the minors. In 2021, he had 23 homers, 11 steals, hit 319. Followed it up with 17, 16, 304 in AAA, and eventually made it up to the majors in 2023. He's shown the ability to hit for some power with some speed, kind of like a 15-10 kind of guy, but he cannot hit he's just not. He's not hitting the ball hard at all. His hard hit rate last year was 26%. His launch angle is very high, 21 degrees. He makes contact, he just doesn't hit the ball hard enough. He hits the ball in the air. It's just weak that he hits in the air, and he definitely just needs to make some changes. So it's good to see that he put on some muscle, but I don't know how much it'll matter. And he's on, the White Sox, obviously, where, the upside is not exactly relevant there.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. Here's one I do care about: Max Meyer adding a sweeper. I've been a big Max Meyer guy for a long time, and adding another pitch, I think he is penciled straight into this Marlins rotation. Yes, you won't get a lot of wins because the Marlins suck, but like you said, you're not expecting wins from a guy going outside the top 400 or I think 500 picks.
Right.
I love Max Meyer. This is going to be one of my dudes.
Okay. All right. I mean, it's too early. I think he's really far away from. I think, let me put it this way. I like him. I think there's talent there. The slider that he showed in 2022 before his injury was really, really good, and it wasn't there last year. And his fastball is really bad, and his changeup is also bad. So, but again, I don't know that we were getting the true healthy Max Meyer last year. I think we were getting a depressed version of him. And so maybe he comes back healthy this year, adds a sweeper, which should get significant swing and miss on it. And if he can pair that with the slider that he showed back in 2022, that could be a lethal, combo of secondaries. He just needs a serviceable fastball. That's really what it's going to come down to. But this is a guy with pedigree. This is a guy who, you can get really late, pick 442. So right at the end of your draft. And I don't hate that.
Yep. I'm all on board. He's going to be a guy on a lot of my teams this year. Hoping the pricing get jacked up, but Even if it does, like I'll be okay with that.
I mean, what's it going to get jacked up to? Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. Like 375, fine, whatever. I'll take it. You know, Jacob Young looking jacked. I don't care about this.
Okay, I mean, he's getting a lot of attention because he's finally going to be starting. You know, he's a guy with a ton of speed, can steal 30 plus bags. What if he can hit you 15 homers or so to go with that?
I mean, I would love that, but you can't steal bases when you're jogging around him. So, like, as long as he's still getting me my 30 stolen bases, on the Sunday podcast for the Sleeper in the Bus, me and Joe Rico did players that we are targeting for certain categories after pick 300. Jacob Young was my stolen base guy. So, like, yeah, will I take the 15 stolen bases? Sure, because I've got him penciled in for like 5 right now.
You're saying you stolen bases, but you mean homers.
Sorry. Yeah, I'll take more home runs too, but like really what I'm drafting Jacob Young for is stolen bases. He's gonna play every day. He's a great defender. But yeah, give me those stolen bases. Any home runs I get on top of it is just gravy.
I'll be honest with you, I don't really ever want to be in a position where I need Jacob Young. I just think that getting a guy hitting 9th in a bad lineup with limited power.
I don't think this is a bad lineup, by the way.
What was that?
I don't think this is a bad lineup.
Okay, fair enough. It's a young and consistent lineup.
Sure. Okay, that's fair.
Either way, you're hitting even in the best lineup in baseball, you're hitting 9th. That's not good. These are just the kind of guys that I avoid. So I think that it's a good like emergency backup plan if you need steals. I just don't ever want to be in a position where that's the case.
Yeah, I mean, you should try not to be in a position where you need anything. But I like Jacob Young's one of those guys. Like, hey, I'll throw him on my roster if I got space for him. Like, right, especially because I mean, where's Young going right now? Young is currently going to pick pretty much 300, 296. There are other guys around there that are interesting. We talked about Kristen Campbell as a guy that's interesting. I talked about David Festa as a guy that I like, who I think will be in the rotation. But like Jacob Young is, if you need stolen base at that point, or if you just want to add to your stolen base output, like you're going to get a bunch. I'll be interested to see, like, does this actually translate to more power? I don't think it will. He's been a big ground ball guy, but maybe it, translate to a higher BABIP, so he's getting on base even more.
Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Just trying not to be in a position where I have any Jacob Young, but I get it.
Bryce Miller adds a cutter.
Yeah, so he kind of had one last year, but he only threw it like 2 or 2.5% of the time or something. But again, I think we're seeing a lot of the aces adding cutters now. I mean, this dude's really good already. So to think about him adding a cutter, I think that would be even. He would be even better. I'm very in on Bryce Miller. There are some guys who go around him that I like slightly more, but I do really like him.
Yeah, I like Bryce Miller a lot too. I've already drafted him, I think, twice this year. Honestly, like for me, like Bryce Miller is like the hard part is like he goes right next to another guy I love in Spencer Schwellenbach. So like it's really hard for me to get. And Bailey Ober too, like and Shota Imanaga, like and Tanner Bybee, Jesus, and Aaron Nola.
My goal is like 2 of those guys, like anytime I can.
Yeah,
2 of them. I know I'm not going to get them all. They're it's impossible to get all of them, but yeah.
So like for me, like where I'm probably going to end up with Bryce Miller a lot is in auctions. I'm going to do an auction where I don't take an ace, but I get 3 of those guys or 4 of those guys. Auctions I think are the place that I'm going to end up with Bryce Miller more, but I do love him. I do love the fact he's adding a cutter here. Paul Skeens tinker with adding a 2-seam fastball and a cutter. You're not in on Skeens this year, right?
I mean, look, I think he's great. It's just I'm just not interested in taking a start. Okay, like if there were a pitcher who were like prime Cole DeGrom, kind of like that kind of talent level, I would take them. I don't think he's that, at least not yet. And I don't trust him to stay healthy with how hard he throws. So no, I will not have any Paul Skeens. But what's crazy is he already has 6 pitches, and he's adding potentially 2 more. Or I don't know. He's got to be subtracting something, right? I mean, like,
yeah.
He literally throws a 4-seam, sinker, curve, sweeper, slider, and change. Like his changeup had a 55% whiff rate last year. He only threw it 5.5% of the time. Like, yeah. I mean, his sinker is elite. Yeah, I don't know how much better he can get with these added pitches, but it's certainly not a bad thing.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm okay with taking him in the back end of the first round. Like especially as we start getting to main events, but like he won't be there. Like he's there right now. Like, and I won't get him in barf because I have the 8th pick, which is exactly where I wanted to be. But like if I had the 15th pick and he was there, I wouldn't be opposed to taking a Paul Skeens. He won't be there come main event season. Like I cannot imagine I end up. I wonder if I have a Paul Skeens share.
Wait, you're interested in him at pick 8?
No, I'm not in. I'm not taking a pick 8. Okay. I'm going to take an offensive player at pick 8.
Who are you taking?
At pick 8?
Yeah.
Whoever falls. I think there are 8 players worthy of pick 8. I'm going to take the player that's there.
Okay. I wanted pick 10 and I got 11. But I can still get there, so we'll see.
Yeah, like for me, like Witt, Ohtani, Judge, Ellie De La Cruz, Jose Ramirez, Gunnar Henderson, Corbin Carroll, Juan Soto. Like I think that is kind of the upper echelon. Like they all should be going in that top 8. I will take one of those guys, whoever falls to me. Like I just don't know. Like so we were in the draft for WERF, and Bloomfield was at pick 8, and Ellie De La Cruz fell to him. And I even said, like, I'm not a big Ellie guy. Like, if I was drafting in the top 5 or top 4 or 5, like, I'm probably not taking Ellie. But at pick 8, like, you're taking Ellie, right? Like, if Ellie falls to me at pick 8, I'm taking Ellie.
I'm not, but I understand the impulse too.
If you're at 8, who are you taking over Ellie?
I'll text you later. I don't want to give away my pick because we have Glarf this weekend. If we didn't, I would tell you. But
all right.
There is one player in particular. So, also, you said pick 8. So I thought you named 9 guys because there's Witt, Ohtani, Judge, Ellie, Hosey, Gunnar, Corbin Carroll, Juan Soto, Kyle Tucker. Is there one of those that you don't want? Like, why? I'm not taking Tucker. Tucker. Okay.
Yeah, Tucker's the guy. The top 8 in the ADP, I believe, is correct.
Yeah. Okay. So, I was assuming Tucker was with the others there, but okay.
No, Tucker's not.
Just
I would
Wrigley,
the injury last year. I don't think there's anything wrong with Tucker.
Yeah.
Like if I'm sitting there at 12 and Tucker gets to me, like I may take Tucker, but I probably take Lindor and Guerrero over Tucker.
Okay.
So just because the volume from Guerrero and then Lindor was he's 2 straight seasons of 30-30. I know he was 29 stolen bases last year, but and now he's going to be hitting with freaking Juan Soto in front of him. I'm probably taking. Yeah. But again, this is one of those years, like it's totally great to draft 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. I have no problem.
Yeah. This is a rare year where drafting late is not terrible. There's been some years where I have hated getting anything like 13 through 15, even 12 through 15, somewhere in that. I hated it.
My KDS for Barf was 2, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15.
Okay.
I wanted Bobby Witt Jr., or if I didn't get Bobby Witt Jr., I wanted the back half of the draft.
Now, I guess we'll talk about it later. I was going to say, did Witt actually? Because for me, I'd rather just take the 1 pick to ensure I get Witt because I don't know that Ohtani is guaranteed to go 1.
No, that's he's gone 1 in every draft I've been in, but I have seen him not go 1. So
yeah, I mean, it's you look at the ADP even right here, it's Witt is 1.5 and Ohtani's 1.7. So Witt has gone, his ADP is actually lower in the last 10 drafts.
I think that's right.
Yeah, I think it's right too, but that's why I'm saying like I would just go to 1 because I don't, make sure I get my guy rather than, 1 pick sooner in the second round or whatever. But honestly, the 10 pick was where I was gonna I went like 10, 11, 9, 8, something like that. Like I really love the way that those picks fall after that.
Yeah. Griffin Canning will throw less four seamers, more sinkers and secondaries. I think this is a good decision by him.
Yeah, oh yeah. Usually you see that, young pitchers come up, they throw too many fastballs, and then eventually, get more and more comfortable with their secondaries. And I don't know what's going to happen with that rotation, but obviously now that Montas is out, you've got Minaya, you've got Senga, who neither of us think is long for this world healthy. You've got Clay Holmes, you've got David Peterson, and then Roster Resource has Paul Blackburn, but I don't know that he's gonna be healthy enough to start the year. And then they've got Griffin Canning as the 6, and I don't know if they're gonna go with the 6-man rotation they've been talking about. So it'll be interesting to see if Canning even starts in the rotation because they got Tyler McGill too. So
and I feel like this. And I think I was talking about it with Paul. I can't remember if it was on air or off air. Jose Quintana makes a lot of sense for them to bring back now that Montas is like they bring him back on a 1-year deal.
Yeah.
And he's been there, for a few years. So I want to see where that kind of shakes out in terms of is Canning actually in the rotation? I think there's so many guys that are injury prone here in this rotation that he will find his way into the rotation at some point. I just don't know if I'm drafting that.
For sure. And then, for Barf and Glarf, I think it's fine to use your last couple picks on guys who may or may not be in rotations, I don't think Canning's going to be picked in most Earth leagues. And I don't even know if he would be the guy that I would want to draft in that rotation. I think I might go McGill over him. But I think that's where you take the shots, though, because you don't know how spring training is going to shake out. Some of these guys we're not expecting to get jobs could end up with them.
Yeah, that's fair. Eloy Jimenez lost 25 to 30 pounds this offseason. Again, I don't care.
I care a little bit, but I don't. He's also going to be free. Where's he going to play? I don't know. I guess for a guy who's shown the talent that he's shown, it's not the worst idea in the world to take a shot. But, obviously you're not relying on him for anything. He really hasn't been that guy since 2020. So, can't stay healthy, and he just hasn't been consistent. Although, in 2022, he did hit 295 with 16 homers and a half a season. So they know that they can't put him in the field. They have to only play him at DH. But that the Tampa's never going to play him every day. So I think that's the thing. You have to is it worth the frustration of how much is he really going to play there?
He is free. We're talking about a guy who's going to pick 580.
Yeah.
Fine, you want to put him on the back end of your roster and then you cut him if he looks like shit in spring. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
But the injuries, losing the weight, isn't necessarily going to make you more healthy. So I don't know that I expect very much from Eloy at this point. Logan Webb added. Oh, so say that again.
I don't think anyone should be expecting anything, but I don't think anyone really is either. And that's why it's not a terrible pick at this point. Yeah.
Logan Webb added a cutter in September, and it was phenomenal.
Did you know this? Because you're a Giants fan.
I did know this. I did know you had it.
I just learned this the other day. I didn't notice because I didn't have any Logan Webb last year, so I wasn't really paying attention to his, individual Arsenal statistics or anything. But I was like, oh, this is interesting. I didn't realize he did this. So what's your take on that? Do you think here's the thing. Logan Webb's not an ace, right? You're not, but you also are not drafting him to be an ace. He's kind of like an earlier, better version of Gausman, where you're drafting him for the consistent innings and good ratios over a lot of innings. So you can get him around pick 96 after all of like kind of the ace type guys are off the board. Not the worst idea as your SP, 3 who can stabilize and give you innings. What do you think?
I mean, I like Logan Webb from a pairing standpoint, right? Like if I take a Paul Skeens, a Logan Webb makes a lot of sense, right? I'm getting the high strikeout numbers from Skeens. I don't know what the innings are going to look like necessarily, but I think he's going to be really, really good when he's on the mound. And so I want a guy who is a number 2 or number 3 starter that is kind of just, pardon the, Giants analogy, but Matt Cain-ish, right? Like a guy who is just going to go out there, throw 180, 200 innings, something like that, with good ratios. But it may not be the strikeout monster that I've already taken. So that makes sense. As far as the cutter goes, like fine. Like I like when a guy adds a new pitch because it just gives him a more full arsenal. But he was also his worst in September. Now I think part of that could just be chalked up to a little bit of bad luck. I think part of that can be chalked up to, hey, he's tired at the end of a long season. But his strikeout rate was only 19% during that month. He had a 144 whip. I don't know that I'm looking at September as like, hey, like you don't know who you're going up against because you're sometimes going up against guys that have been brought up for to try to fill out the rosters expanded. Like I let me see it in spring training before I change any idea. I think Logan Webb is just who he's always been, which is a fine number 2, number 3 starter that's an innings eater, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I was looking into it, hoping to see, a big uptick in strikeouts. The ERA is, I don't care about ERA really. It's kind of volatile over small samples, especially like 27 innings, whatever. But yeah, he had 22 Ks in 27 innings in September. Now he could start throwing this cutter more, and had a 30% whiff rate. But typically cutters are not a pitch that get a lot of whiffs, so I'm not expecting this to have much of an effect on his strikeout rate. So I think, like you said, he is what he is. I think he pairs well with someone who took pitchers earlier, and this is like their SP3 as just like a guy who can give them good innings, and they've already got the strikeouts covered. They started with Skubal and Snell or something like that, and then they took Webb as their SP3. I don't think this is a guy that you want on your team that you didn't start taking pitching until round 5 or 6, and you took like King and Ober or something like that. I don't think that this pairs as well with a team like that. I think you want to take a shot on someone who can potentially make up that difference in Ks that you're missing.
I'm almost never going to end up with Logan Webb because that means somehow I missed out on that tier above Logan Webb.
Okay.
The one we were just talking about with Aaron Nola, Tanner Bybee, Bryce Miller, Spencer Schwellenbach, Bailey Ober. I'm always going to get a pitcher from that group, and so I'm never going to end up with Logan Webb.
Yeah, I pretty much agree. Like, he is the kind of guy who I think can fall, though. Like, Logan Webb is the kind of guy who I can see falling into like pick like 120 in some places, and that would be the place where I might pick him up.
Yeah, 120, that's fine. Like when even if he dips down like outside of the top 100 and gets into that glass now, Sonny Gray like injury prone area, give me the guy I can pencil in for 200 innings with good ratios. All of those guys. So like, like
6 picks later. Glasnow goes like 6 picks later than him. So yeah, you can easily fall there.
Ellie De La Cruz is changing his batting stance to try to help him cut down on strikeouts. Okay, I know people have heard my takes on Ellie De La Cruz. If this is legit, Ellie De La Cruz could be the first overall pick in 2026.
Yeah.
Like if he goes from a guy who makes even league out, it doesn't even have to be league average. It could be below league average zone contact. He's the first overall pick. Like he has got that kind of talent.
Well, okay, let me back up. If Ohtani's healthy, it's probably still Ohtani. But I don't know. I don't know how much Ohtani's going to be running moving forward. There's a lot of factors to take into consideration. Like Ellie De La Cruz will never be the hitter that Ohtani is. So he'll never be the hitter that Bobby Witt is. But like you said, if he can hit, I don't know, I think to be the number 1 overall pick, I think you'd have to hit closer to 270. I'm gonna say more than 250. If he can hit 270 with 60 steals and say 25 homers or something like that, then yeah, you're talking about at least top 3. I know he's 4th right now, but
I mean, he pretty much hit 260 last year. Now, I don't think I don't have him penciled in for 260. I think he got a little bit lucky last year. I think the 2023 batting average is much more in line, like a 240 is I think what I have him penciled in for. But
all the projection systems have him between 250 and 263 for what it's worth.
Yeah, well, I don't trust the projection systems in that regard, but
I'm just throwing it out there.
Yeah. If he can make league average contact inside of the zone, because last year he was under 80% in terms of zone contact.
I'm seeing 80.5.
What are you using?
Fangraphs.
Which data source for
zone contact? 80.5.
80.5.
Yeah.
Oh, you're using I'm using StatCasts. So
maybe where I'm looking at might be different then. Okay.
Yeah, you're looking at Sports Inflow Solutions on Fangraphs. So
it's on my Discord, so I don't remember which one I picked.
Yeah. So I prefer the StatCast one. You can use whatever one you want. Just you need to know, and this is a good thing to actually talk about, right? When you're using that kind of data for the contact skills for swing strike rate, make sure you know which one you're using and what the league average is, right? Because they all measure it differently, so it can be a little bit different from stat to stat. So just make sure you know which one you're using regularly and then what the league average is on that.
Also, where do you find the league averages?
You go to the leaderboard. So if you go to the leaderboard on Fangraphs, you can sort by league stats, and then go to pitch level data, and then you can pick.
So you go to leaders batting 2024.
Yeah. So for those watching on the YouTube, and if you're not watching on the YouTube, go to the YouTube because I'm going to show you how to do this real quick. So,
because I didn't know this, by the way.
Yeah. So if you let me make this screen a little bit larger there. So if you go to the leaderboard where you just find all the stats for all hitters, so at the top there's a league stats page or a league stats tab. Right there on the right, you see it's green right there. Okay. Click that, then scroll down where it says stats. Next to it says pitch level data, and that will bring you to kind of some different options. You're gonna look at. I use StatCast. You can just use whichever one you want. Okay. Go to plate discipline, and there you go. So now you can see that according to StatCast, the zone contact average rate was 85.2%.
Okay, interesting.
So just make sure you know, especially when you're using different stats from different places, know what stat or what the league average is to give you an understanding. Because if we look at StatCast zone contact league average is 85
for SIS is virtually the same. It's 85.8.
Yeah, so it's 85.8, and then pinch info is 85.1. So it just really just depends on, because they're measuring the zone a little bit differently, right? Depending on what equipment they're using. So, but if Ellie can bring it up to 82, 83% regularly, he could just be massive. And
I can see the upside. I hate starting with a guy who could be, and even changing his stance, I have to assume that he's still gonna strike out 30% plus. If he doesn't, that's great, but you can't assume that that's going to happen.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm not saying I assume. This could be one of those things. I don't love tinkerers, so the guy that always reminds me of this kind of thing is BJ Upton used to change. He would change his swing constantly, and it annoyed the hell out of me because he'd find something that was work and then he'd change his swing. Cody Bellinger went through this early on in his career, where he would you'd be like, oh, he just won the NL MVP, And then the next year, like they're like, oh, he's changing his swing. Like, why? You just won the NL MVP.
Well, that was different. That was he changed his swing because he had to because he was hurt.
Yeah. But like, you know, like I don't necessarily love tinkerers, but if Ellie is going to make more contact, I love that.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and who knows? But obviously, like the ability is there for him. Like he's super talented. I am in no way fading Ellie. The way I like to build my teams, I want to get my average early, and I'm not that concerned about steals. Like there's so many guys who can give you steals throughout the draft now because guys are running more in general now. I think his steals are less valuable than they were in previous years, and I'm more looking for power and average, which I think are in shorter supply.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that. All right. Colt Keith, my boy, we just talked about him, made an offseason swing adjustment, including more prominent leg kick. I need to see it. I need to see what it looks like and how it translates. But I do think that Colt Keith has a really, really good hit tool and a lot of power that has not developed quite yet. It could develop this year. You know, we already talked about Colt Keith in comparison to Jackson Holiday. He may be one of my more rostered guys this year.
Okay, fair.
Do you have anything you want to add, or should we move on to Michael McGreevy?
No, we can move on. I mean, I guess I probably shouldn't have even thrown this on there because I don't even know if McGreevy's going to be in the rotation. But
yeah, I don't believe he is, but he added muscle. Once again, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, because I think they said that Mott's might be starting in the pen, so I think there might be an opening in that rotation.
I think if he's not in the rotation to start the year, he will be fairly soon. Yeah. Because you got Sonny Gray, who had, I think, elbow issues.
Yep.
Only Andre Palente is in his 30s in this rotation. Sonny Gray is 35. Eric Fetty's 32. Miles Mikolas is 36. And Steven Matz is 33. I'm going to be 34. Right. Yeah, McGreevy's going to get run. I just don't know if it's going to be at the start of the season.
No, maybe not. I think he's not the worst guy. If you like McGreevy, I don't think he's the worst guy to throw in at the end of your draft. I don't know if the upside's really enough to make it a worthwhile pick if it does hit, but yeah.
Yeah. I don't think I'm drafting. I think he's more of a pickup in season. Sal Frelick put on 25 pounds of muscle. Again, I don't care, but
I don't know if I believe that either. I mean, that's a lot of damn muscle. So, I mean, this is a guy
he's this pretty skinny guy.
Right. Yeah, he's only ever hit 11 homers in a full season in the minors back in 2022. Like, that's his career high. So, he hit
25 pounds of muscle. He's only 5'8". 25 pounds of muscle is a lot.
Yeah, that's like when this was reported in our group thread, Jake was like, I couldn't even put on 25 pounds of fat this offseason. There's no way that dude put on 25 pounds of muscle. I don't know. It seems like they kind of over-exaggerate how much muscle they're putting on. But I guess the bottom line is maybe Frelick hits a couple more homers. For what it's worth, projections have him for like 5 to 6 homers. I don't know. You're not counting on it, though, either way. And I just don't like Frelick, period.
You know, here's the thing. I am very intrigued by Frelick.
Oh, okay.
So, if you're still on that leaderboard, and you change that leaderboard from league stats to player stats, and you sort by zone contact, you'll notice that Sal Frelick is 5th in zone contact.
Yeah, and notice that doesn't mean shit. Because
I mean, I think it means something.
I know you. I don't think it does.
Yeah, no, I think it means something. Guys who make a lot of contact give themselves the opportunity to get lucky, right?
But contact is one thing. I don't think zone contact. I mean, I don't know. I think if you're looking at like barrels,
you want guys to make contact in the zone. That's where you get hits from.
But when you look at the leaderboard and you see Sal Frelick over there and realize that doesn't mean shit, like, what does that help me?
Well, there are gonna be outliers to every stat.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the problem with Sal Frelick is, and this is the interesting part about this topic. And like I said, I don't care. I'm not necessarily drafting Sal Frelick.
Yeah.
But the issue with Sal Frelick, you go look at that, go look at his StatCast numbers, and you go, oh, he has an average exit velocity of 83.4. He doesn't barrel the ball. He doesn't lift the ball. He's got a 19% hard hit rate. It's not because the zone contact is an issue. Like, that's really good. The problem is he doesn't hit the ball hard. If he's rocketing the ball because he's added muscle, then he becomes a little bit more interesting. But until he does that, like, the zone contact is great, but if you can't get it out of the infield, that's a problem.
Yeah.
All right. You still don't care. All right. That's fine. We're already 2 hours in. We're just halfway through the podcast. So we're going to have to move through quickly. And maybe we'll only cover one draft today.
Yeah.
Because I can't stay up till 4 o'clock in the morning. I still have other work.
I think we're moving through, but yeah, I hear you. Go ahead.
Let's go round by round. And I'm definitely going to break this up into multiple episodes. So if you're watching live on the YouTube, you get it all in one chunk. But I may break this up into like 3 different episodes.
Oh.
We'll see how quickly we go. We're going round by round. We are now in round 11. Pick 150 through 165. Go ahead and tell me who is the guy that you like in that.
Yeah, and I'll keep it quick because I've already talked about him. It's Adolis Garcia. I just think that he's very undervalued right now. I think he's going to come back after not being healthy last year, and I think he could mash once again.
All right. I really, really like that pick. If you hadn't gone first, I probably would have gone with Adolis Garcia. Like I said before, I feel like he's really underrated. Like, this is a guy who was going in the 4th, 5th round the last few years. And for you to be getting him at pick 150, I love that pick. I just really do. The guy I'm going to go with is Luis Rengifo. I feel like this is finally the year he's going to get to play full time. Now, he's got to stay healthy, but he's multi-position eligible. I think he's going to hit towards the top of the lineup. There is a little bit of power and some good speed there. The Angels run nonstop because it's Ron Washington as the manager. So Luis Rengifo, a guy that I really like going inside of the 11th round.
Yep. Agreed.
All right. Who's the guy you dislike in this one or hate?
So I'm not going to count Kirby Yates because obviously his ADP was before they came out and said that Tanner Scott was going to get the majority of the saves there. So I went with Alexis Diaz. The thing is, with Tito in Cincy now, whoever ends up closing there is incredibly valuable because he is so loyal to his guys. But, Alexis Diaz hasn't been his guy. He was there for 3 years. But, Diaz has closed there for two plus years. But he walks so many guys. I mean, it's like a close to 5 walk per 9 rate. He had a 4.5 Sierra last year. I just don't trust him to keep the job. I think someone else will rise to the occasion. Even if he starts with the job, I don't think he's ending the season as the closer there.
I think he's definitely one of the more riskier closers in kind of with that's quote unquote the guy, right? Like we expect Alexis Diaz to enter the year with a role, but I think he is one of the guys that could easily drop it fairly early on. This stuff is really, really good. He just can't command and control it consistently. So
this has also been going down. I mean, swing strike rate's gone from 16.5 to 14.5 to 11%.
Yeah. So I definitely think he's a riskier closer. The guy that I'm going to go with, this is actually a hard round.
It is.
I actually like most of the guys who are going in this round. So I went with Reynaldo Lopez.
Okay.
And it's not that I dislike Reynaldo Lopez. I'm a little worried about the arm injuries last year. So now they signed him to a 3-year contract in the offseason. I feel like I'm sure they did their due diligence in that.
Never assume that.
but at the same time, like, I don't love guys who had arm, elbow issues, the previous season. Like, and I just don't know what you can project from him from an inning standpoint. The last time he's threw more than 140 innings at the major league level was 2019. He made a big jump in innings last year and had elbow issues as a result. So I'm just not going to draft Reynaldo Lopez. I kind of put him in that Brian Wu area with me, where it's like, hey, on a per inning basis, I think he's really good, but I don't know how many innings I'm actually going to get from him.
Okay, like, I definitely don't think he's close to being as talented as Wu. I think he got incredibly lucky last year. I mean, he had a 2 ERA with a 3.6 SIERA. Like, biggest difference, I think, in all starters in baseball. And on top of that, like, he had a 1.11 WHIP despite getting as lucky as he did. So I would say that WHIP's definitely going towards 1.25 to 1.3 this season. As the SIERA regresses back to, I think you can pretty much expect what he did in 2023, maybe a slightly higher ERA from that, and that was as a reliever. But I think, 3.6 ERA, 1.25 to 1.3 WHIP. I think, he's solid, but, he also threw 136 innings coming after throwing 66 innings. So I think oftentimes when you see that big jump, sometimes you'll have, arm, shoulder injuries that come with it. So I think you're right to be concerned there.
All right. Let's move on to round 12. We're talking picks 165 through 180. Who's the guy you love?
I went with Eugenio Suarez. I've talked about before. I think he's being underrated based on his years in Seattle, which we've kind of learned since then that Seattle is just a horrific park to try to hit in. I think what he did last year in Arizona is more along the lines of what we can expect moving forward, kind of like a 250 hitter instead of a 230 hitter, with that 30 homer power. So I'm a fan.
Yeah, I mean, I think Suarez is just an underrated dude. Like,
Yeah.
he just, like, this is one of those guys that I kind of have highlighted on my sheet, because I feel like he's one of these guys you can get after 150 that actually delivers power and doesn't actively hurt you elsewhere. So I do agree with you on Suarez. The guy I went with, this was actually like the inverse of the last round. Not many guys I love in this tier. Like, a lot more guys I hate. We'll talk about that here in a second. But the guy I do love is Brandon Pfaadt. I have been a big believer in Pfaadt for the last couple of years. I'm just kind of waiting for him to put it all together. I think the stuff is good. He's shown he can throw a boatload of innings. Like, for him, it's command. He made command improvements last year. I know the surface ERA is really, really scary, but 3.15 BABIP. I think he got pretty unlucky, kind of generally speaking. I think that this is a year that Brandon Pfaadt could take another step forward and kind of turn into the pitcher I think he can be, which is like a SP2 or 3.
Okay.
Who do you hate?
So I have two players here who I really hate, and I don't know. I don't hate Sedan Rafaela, but I hate his situation because he's going to be hitting at the bottom of that Boston lineup, and I could see him sitting more, and he doesn't make enough. 69.5% contact rate. He doesn't hit the ball super hard. 36.7% hard hit rate. 7.5% barrel rate is respectable though. Like, he's got some pop. He's got some speed. It's not that I think he's bad. Hitting at the bottom of the lineup, which is where I think he's going to hit all the time. I feel like there's so much downside there.
Well, we're going to go back to the leaderboard here.
Oh boy.
And we're going to go back to that pitch level data. We're going to go back to the StatCast plate discipline. We're going to sort by zone contact, and then we're going to reverse it. And we're going to go, Sedan Rafaela's got the 11th worst zone contact in all of baseball. He has got the worst O-swing in all of baseball. Where's my swing and strike rate? Why is my swing and strike rate not coming up?
And Well, that he still had 15 homers, 19 steals, 70 runs, 75
Yes.
behind a 246 average last year. Like,
You know who Cedane Rafaela is? I can tell you exactly who Cedane Rafaela is.
Is it going to be like Javi Baez or something? Who is it?
Well, it's a similar type player, but I was thinking one is someone that people are drafting still.
Oh, okay. Who?
He is Christopher Morel with better defense.
Okay.
Like, Christopher Morel is a bad defender, and that's why Morel loses time. Cedar Rafael is a really good defender. That's why he will continue to play. But the underlying skills suck.
His score wasn't great last year. I mean, I don't know if that is indicative of I don't know. But he had a 2.2 defensive score last year. So, but it does sound like that they at least think that he's really good because it sounds like they want to keep him in center field and play every day.
I think, and I'm not 100% sure on this because I'm not like any sort of expert by any stretch of the imagination. I think guys who play multiple positions get downgraded defensively.
Oh, okay.
And don't hold me to that. I could be completely off base on that, but I just get that feeling. So, but no, he's a pretty damn good defender. They've also signed him to a long-term contract, so like I think he is going to play quite a bit. So, but that being said, I absolutely cannot stand guys who can't make contact in the zone and swing outside of the zone way too much, just because they are extremely uneven, right? Like, you're going to get really hot weeks. You're going to get really, really cold weeks. It'd be really hard to know when to play him, when not to play him. You will not see me draft any Cedane Rafaela.
Yeah.
I drafted him last year in November, in 2020, November of 2023, when he was going outside of like pick 600. But when he started like rising crazily in March, like I didn't have any shares.
I'm sad to say I was one of the people drafting him as he was rising crazily. I mean, to be fair, he wasn't like a big bust or anything like that.
No, he was fine. Like, I think people took him around pick 180. Like,
yeah,
he 15 home runs, 19 stolen bases. Like, that's totally fine. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But like,
the runs in the RBI were there too. That's the weird. Yeah, but
I think he's gonna play quite a bit because one, like I said, they're paying him. They gave him an 8-year, $50 million deal. They've got him signed through 2031 with a club option in 2032. And like he is a very good defender that could play multiple positions. And this is a team like, yes, it is a very good team, but it's also got some weird injury history on this team. Like, so I think he's gonna get 600 plate appearances. Yeah. I just don't know what those 600 plate appearances are gonna look like.
Yeah, and I just don't think that there's much hope for him to move up in that lineup either.
No, I don't either. Not unless there's some major injury somewhere. Or he really changes his approach at the plate. Like, when you're swinging outside of the zone as much as him, like, that's a problem.
Yeah, for sure. And then for my second guy that I have on my hate list is Bryson Stott. And I think I mentioned this last week, but he doesn't hit the ball hard. He doesn't barrel the ball. But more than that, he just sits a lot. And, like, I think it's more than you guys think it is. I know that he had 571 plate appearances, but that's while staying healthy. Like if you look, there's times where he sat multiple days in a row. And I just no everyday kind of player sits multiple days in a row without an injury. So I avoid those guys. He's going to hit late in the batting order too. I'm not taking him.
All right. I think the guy I'm actually going to choose here is Lane Thomas. When Lane Thomas was in Washington, things seemed to be really clicking for him. He was terrible in Cleveland, and Cleveland does not run nearly as much as Washington does. I don't think Lane Thomas is going to be very good. And while I understand people are kind of looking at the previous numbers and going, hey man, like, this is a guy who has been, he was 1532 last year. When he got to Cleveland, and I'm actually trying to as I bring up the numbers.
He was epically bad in August. Like, I think he was 0 for his first, I don't even know, like 40 plate at bats or something. Like, it was horrific. He hit 143 with no homers in August, but in September, October, he hit 264 with 7 homers. Had his best month of the season in Cleveland. And then he carried that over and had a big postseason as well. He is not someone I will be fading. He's not like a monster target for me or anything, but I'm definitely not fading Lane.
Lane Thomas without the stolen bases, though, is like even in that September, he had 1 stolen base. He was 1 for 3 on the base pass.
I don't know that that's indicative of anything, though. It's not like Cleveland doesn't run, so I don't think that that's going to be the case this year.
It's not that they don't run. It's they don't run is like we saw Jesse Winker steal 14 bases in Washington. Washington led the majors in stolen bases,
and that's a fair point. It's fair to say that you're afraid he won't run as much. I get that.
Yeah. I think he is much more of like a 15-10 player in Cleveland, and like that just doesn't move the needle for me.
Okay. Yeah, I think the 10 is extremely low. I mean, he stole 32 bases last year, and regardless,
one in Cleveland.
Yeah,
he stole 31 of those in Washington.
Yes, but I don't think that ratio is carrying over. I mean, projections.
I'm not saying it's carrying over. I'm just saying I don't think
I'm closer for 25 steals. If you want to say, okay, maybe closer to 20, I can get there. I'm not saying anywhere close to 10. He's stealing more than 10.
Well, we'll have to see. Maybe we'll get a board bet going on Lane.
Okay.
All right. Moving right along. Who do you have for round 13? We're talking picks 180 through 195.
Yeah, a guy who I just love more and more. The deeper I look, it's Paul Goldschmidt. I just think, going from let me look up the park change factors.
Oh, they're massive. Yeah,
it's massive. Yeah, that's the long and the short of it is going from St. Louis to New York is absolutely ridiculous difference. So. I'm expecting him to do very well in New York this year. I found it. Okay, so he's going from a park factor of 93 for home runs to a park factor of 120. So difference of 27 right there. So that can be just massive. And he's just a really good hitter still. Like I think people, like the power's still there. It's just the average was really far down last year, and I think that a lot of people are just saying, "Oh, he's old now," but he was 36. He's not 42. So like let's calm down a little bit here. Like I still think that there's plenty left in the tank. I think he's going to go to that lineup and feast. And I think for where he's going, it's such a steal. Yeah,
I completely agree with you. Could not agree with you more. I think Paul Goldschmidt is one of the steals of the draft right now. So.
Yep.
Right there with you. Another steal of the draft, Isaac Paredes.
Yeah.
Like this stadium is completely built for Isaac Paredes. If you look at the X home runs by park, he was terrible in Chicago. Well, that's because like that park was not good for his kind of pull happy approach. It was he had a 13 X home run for the season. If he had played all his games in Chicago, I know he was traded there midseason, but
well, that park was horrific for all hitters everywhere last year. It was epically bad. Like Sarah showed me some stats on Wrigley. It was, I mean, the weather effect there last year was absolutely unreal.
Yeah. But in Houston, where they've got those Crawford boxes, his X home run is 26. That is double of what it would have been in Chicago. I think Isaac Paredes is going to bounce back huge. He's going way too late right now, so he's definitely a guy that I am loving. Who are you disliking there?
It's Jordan Romano. I don't have any faith at all in his health. He had arthroscopic elbow surgery in July. Twice had his throwing program shut down before requiring a procedure to repair an impingement in his shoulder after that. So I know they paid him. I have zero faith in him being healthy.
I'm right there with you. This is why I'm drafting Orion Kirkring. Like I'm trying to push Kirkring.
I guess the question is, are you sure that Kirkring is the guy?
I'm not sure, but I do think that Kirkring is still going to be a really, really effective reliever.
Okay, that's fair. The fact that Alvarado has prior closing experience, I feel like he can easily be slid right back into that role.
Yeah, I mean, he absolutely could be, and maybe the Phillies want to like kind of suppress like the arbitration numbers on Kirkring, for the long term once he hits arbitration. So I could definitely see that. I just think if Kirkring became the guy, and Philadelphia's team that wants to compete, like Kirkring could be a top 10 closer, top 5 closer in baseball. I just think that his stuff is that good.
It's the upside play for sure.
So the guy I love in this round, and of course I haven't even found it yet, so I'm gonna have to stall as I kind of look, because Goldschmidt would have been my guy. No, we did my guy. We did Paredes. We're doing my guy that I hate. God, there's so many options here actually.
Well, pick one.
I'm gonna go. I'm wondering if I'm gonna get a lot of pushback on Gabriel Moreno. I just don't see what other people see in Gabriel Moreno. Like, there's nothing necessarily wrong with him. I just think that he is overrated based on the kind of prospect pedigree. But I think people need to remember, like, his pedigree had a lot to do with his defense. And it's not even like they let him volume there. They've got other catchers that they let him split time with. I just don't think that there's a ton of upside in Moreno that I think other people remember from that postseason run.
Yeah, I think Jake is someone who likes Moreno a bit. I mean, they only have Jose Herrera behind him. I don't know, but I think it's like projection systems like the average. Like he only hit 266 last year with the 255 xBA, but projection systems have him hitting like 270 to 285. So, but again, like if this guy only has, he had 380 and 351 the last 2 years plate appearances. Unless he's putting up 600 plate appearances, that average really isn't helping you enough.
Yeah.
So, like, I think he's fine. I just don't think that there's, like, I wouldn't say he's my fade, but I mean, at pick 189, that's feels high, I guess. Like, you're going to take him over, some of the guys, like, he's going at the same time as Goldschmidt, Parker Meadows, even, Taylor Ward, Isaac Paredes. Like, they're all going at the same time as Gabriel Moreno. Like, Moreno's just not adding anything.
Here's the thing for me, a catcher. If I'm not getting a catcher before this, like if like my number 1 or my number 2, I'm just waiting. Like I'm just like saying, well, screw it. Like I'm just gonna wait. Like it's
how much better is Moreno gonna be than Miguel Amaya? Like what?
Yeah, exactly. Like you can get Miguel Amaya in the last round. Like I'd rather take a shot on like Amaya or Agustin Ramirez. Like maybe he makes the team and there's some upside there. Like. Yeah. Is there really any difference between Moreno and Alejandro Kirk? Like, aren't they the same guy in a lot of respects?
Moreno's maybe a slight upgrade, but yeah.
Like, is it worth the 100 picks almost?
No.
So yeah, I mean, like for me, like I just don't think that it's worth his ADP currently.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next round and discuss rounds 14 pick 195 through 210.
Yeah, so my pick for this round is Spencer Arrighetti. This guy has 3 pitches that are 38% plus whiff rate pitches. I mean, the stuff is there. The fastball isn't great, but it's also not horrible. The curve is absolutely elite. The sweeper is also elite. The changeup that he only throws 8.5% is really good, and the cutter is fine. So, like, he's a guy who like the overall numbers don't show how good he was later on in the season. Mm-hmm. It's really been masked, but people are kind of like he's more of a wide awake sleeper. I think everybody likes Arrighetti to some degree. So. He's a guy that you're probably going to have to jump up a bit to get, but I love him.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. it was unfortunate because like he was carrying me to a championship in labor. And then he had that one blow up where like I think he went like 2/3 of an inning or something like that and like gave up a crap ton of runs that like sunk me. But like he was propelling me there to a championship, so I can't really be that mad at him. I ended up finishing I think second or third in that league. But yeah, no, I think if he can kind of hone in the control, and he started to really show that he can in the second half of the season, I think Arrighetti could take a really big step forward. The stuff is really good.
Yeah.
The guy I love is Kerry Carpenter. We already talked about it a little bit. He kind of broke my projections a little bit when he came back. He needs health. And I'm almost a little bit more concerned about him actually facing left-handed pitching. I know that we talked about earlier, like, hey, like he's going to face, they're going to try to face him against more lefties. Sometimes I just want a guy to match righties. Like, don't give me the negatives on on the guy, if he can't figure out how to hit lefties. That being said, I think he could hit 30-plus bombs. I didn't project him for 30-plus bombs, but I think he could hit 30-plus bombs this year in Detroit. So I do love Kerry Carpenter.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The park will hold him back to some degree, but he is a phenomenal hitter, so it wouldn't shock him. I do like him. I don't like platoons, but I'm willing to make an exception. You guys just have to make sure you don't take a bunch of guys like that. Like, you can take one or two. You don't want to take 3, 4, 5 platoon guys. Like, that's not the way to do this. So for my guy I hate. Oh, you want that one?
Oh, you know what? We can actually just trade off and both talk about the two guys we both dislike here.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't even notice that you had Luis Ariz and Zach Geloff here.
Yeah.
Why don't you take one? I'll take the other. You can choose which one you want.
Okay. Well, I'm going to let you cover Geloff because you get to utilize your favorite stat of all time with him. So I'll take Luis Ariz, and it's really simple, guys. Like, he's a great real life player. He's a guy you want on your team. He gets on base. Well, I guess on base is not the correct way to put it. He doesn't really walk, but he hits for a high average. The problem is I don't care. In 2023 when he hit 354, yes, that moved the needle a bit, but he's also hurting you actively in every category other than runs and average. Every other category, he's a negative. And I don't care how good you are in those two categories. I don't want anything to do with that. Like, that's not a useful player for me. And if you're in season and there's a guy who's going off, I can understand picking him up, using him for that whatever stat that you absolutely have to juke your stats for. But other than that, this is not a player that you want to build your team around. You don't want this.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. He's just such a deficit in everything else that I understand he gives you good average. I don't want him on my team. Like, if I have to draft Luis Ariz, I have made a massive mistake somewhere along.
You've made several mistakes.
Yeah. All right. So the other guy that we both had kind of on this list for this round was Zach Geloff. Now, here's the one thing I will say about Zach Geloff. I think he's going to play every day because Oakland doesn't care about winning. Sacramento doesn't care about winning. And there is power, there is speed, and they're moving to a much better park. So, like, if you don't care about batting average, if you are punting your batting average, Zach Geloff makes some sense. I will say, though, they did just sign Luis Urias, and they as a guy to play third base, but they could put Urias at second if Geloff struggled. So I don't think the floor in terms of going to the minor leagues is as safe as it was a week ago. But I will not be drafting Zach Geloff because I don't draft guys who can't make contact in the zone.
There it is. Everybody, bring up your league stats. Let's go to
let's go to that leaderboard and look at zone contact, and we're going to reverse the order and see that Zach Geloff had the third worst zone contact in all of Major League Baseball.
Yeah, he's basically like Sedan Raphael light, really. Like,
he doesn't swing outside the zone quite as much as Rafaela. He only swings outside the zone about 28% of the time, which is a little bit above league average, but not bad. But he is very much Christopher Morel. And Morel's number 2 on worst in zone contact. It's like this is not a good profile. The only reason he plays is because he's on the A's.
Yeah, but the thing is, I don't think if you're hitting under 200, I don't think it matters what team you're on. They're probably going to demote you. If he hits 190 for an extended period, I think he's gone. I think they'll send him down to the minors. They'll try to get him back on track. Is what I'm saying. I don't think they're going to let him languish in the majors if he looks like he doesn't belong.
Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. All right, let's move on to the final round. We're going to talk about round 15, pick 210 to 225. Where are you at on the guy that you love?
So this was a tough round for Love. There wasn't a ton that I loved in this range. Actually, there's really nothing that I loved in this range, to be honest with you. There's some guys just outside of the range at 226 and 227, but 210 to 225, not so much. But the guy I did go with was Jorge Soler. I just think if you need power, this is a guy who's going to give you some power. And the nice thing is he's going from a park, 2 different parks actually last year. One of them that had a park factor of 79 being San Francisco, and the other one being Atlanta at 105. And he's going to the Angels Park, which has a 109 park factor for home runs. So, for those of you who don't know, the Angels Park actually plays pretty well for power amongst parks. So this is a guy who has hit, 48 home runs before, 36. I know he hit 21 last year, but he could easily be a 30 to 35 home run hitter next year in LA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that call out a lot. The guy I like, I actually disagree with you in terms of there's no one I truly love necessarily, but there's a lot of guys I like in this round. If Nico Horner's healthy, I could be talking about Nico Horner.
He's not.
Yeah, but that's why I'm not talking about him. I'm just mentioning some of the guys I do kind of like here. Tolia, I kind of like.
Yeah.
Michael Garcia, I kind of like. Matt Shaw, depending on how this oblique issue goes, I kind of like. I want to like Josh Young, but I just can't. The injuries have been too prevalent early on.
I think that wrist is still gonna.
You had just written down Cedric Mullins for me. I think Gleyber Torres definitely takes a hit in value going to Detroit, but I still think he's going to be kind of a accumulator, which is fine. I think Nolan Arenado is really overlooked, but the guy I actually kind of love in this tier is Jake McCarthy.
Okay.
McCarthy is going to be playing every day. It's kind of the first time over the course of a full season that they're actually going to give him everyday playing time. He's got a little bit of pop, but a good amount of speed. He plays good defense. Showed that he can hit for average last year. I don't think it's going to be quite as good as 285, but he makes a ton of in-zone contact. Doesn't swing outside of the zone too much. Is aggressive inside the zone. I like Jake McCarthy as a guy who can give you stolen bases at this point of the draft, but not be a zero in the power.
Have they come out? Have they come out and said he's playing every day anywhere?
I don't know that they have, but I just looking at the roster, I think they're going to give him the opportunity to play every day.
I mean, I think they should.
They should.
With how they've kind of juggled his playing time before, I'm not completely convinced.
Yeah, and I think that is kind of the big question mark. He did almost get to 500 plate appearances last year, and so I'm hoping that is indicative. It's definitely something you want to watch kind of in spring training. If there are any comments, say Jake McCarthy is our guy in center.
Yeah.
But I just think McCarthy is a pretty good price here as a guy who could probably hit 12 home runs and steal 30 bags. All right, we're moving on to guys we hate. We're going to have the same guy because there's not really another guy that I truly hate in this spot.
Okay, I'll let you take it away then. Tell us why we hate Sean Murphy.
Yeah, it's Sean Murphy, and I just think that people are still kind of drafting Sean Murphy based on the guy he was in Oakland, and he's just not that guy anymore. He doesn't volume the way that he did in Oakland because he's not going to DH with Ozuna there. He's been banged up quite a bit over the course of these last 2 years. Last season, he had a 193 batting average. It was a 214 XBA. So, yes, he got unlucky, but he didn't get that unlucky. He still would have sucked. The underlying skills have gotten worse and worse since leaving Oakland. 85% zone contact in 2022, 84% in 2023, 80.5 last season. And maybe you can chalk it up to injury, but like I don't know what's in this profile that gets people really excited. Like he's going to cap out at probably around 425 plate appearances. There isn't prodigious power with that. I think at best you're looking at a guy who like is mediocre, and at worst you're looking at what he was last year, which is injured and terrible.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know what to expect, and I think I do have to look into this deeper because so like in 2023 he did hit 21 homers and 440 plate appearances with a 274 XBA, 251 batting average. So and that's coming off of a year, 2021, 2022 where he's looked good before, but we've seen these wild swings in his average, 216, 250, 251, then 193. I have to look to see if this was just injury ravaged or what, but either way, I just don't think. Now, granted, he doesn't have Darno there anymore, which is nice because he doesn't have a player. He's got Chadwick Tromp, who I don't think really demands playing time very much there, but I don't see them giving Murphy like a ton of starts because I think they want to keep him healthy, especially because they're going to be a playoff team most likely. And he doesn't do anything for me here in this part of the draft. There's other guys going later who I'm fine taking shots on them instead.
I think what they do have though is a guy in the minor leagues that he's not on the 40-man yet, but he will be up in the majors at some point with Drake Baldwin. Yeah. And so like, I think he at some point they're going to be sharing time.
Yeah, I think you're right.
So and it could be as early as the start of the season. Drake Baldwin had 334 plate appearances at AAA last season. Hit 298, 407, 484 with 12 home runs. Only struck out at a 16% rate and walked at almost a 16% rate. Like Drake Baldwin, I think, is going to be a regular catcher in Atlanta, especially if Murphy struggles.
Yeah, and come to think of it now, I remembered speaking with some of the prospect guys at First Pitch Arizona, and they were pretty excited about Drake Baldwin, saying he's ready to start, like he's ready to come up now. So I think you're right. If he's not up to start the year, it'll probably won't be long.
Yeah, so no Sean Murphy for me. All right, that's going to wrap us up on that. Let's move over, and we're just going to talk about the WERF draft tonight, which was the one that I was in, I was drafting for somebody, just because we're already at 2.5 hours, and I'm not doing this podcast till midnight. So we're gonna talk about that. We'll just go team by team. I am not going to I'm going to try not to influence your thought process too much on these. I really want your thought process because I want you to try to figure out which team I drafted.
I mean, when do you influence what I'm going to say?
Well, no. I don't want to like influence your guess on which team is mine.
Okay. Well, yeah.
So we'll start with team one.
Yeah.
That was Shohei Ohtani in the first overall. Emmanuel Clase, Devin Williams at the 2-3 turn, Framber Valdez, Adley Rutschman, Brian Reynolds. What do you think about team one?
It's definitely missing some things. Like I don't know where. I don't think. Well, okay. I guess they got Victor Robles later for steals. But like there's definitely a dearth of steals in the first half of the draft. Framber as the 1 is fine, but then waiting all the way until Fott, could be really good. But Fott's the 2, Alcantara is the 3, and then Ranger Suarez is the 4, and Eric Fetty is the 5th. That pitching is real light.
Yeah. So I will say this was definitely not my team.
I know that.
Yeah. So there was an uproar when this person and a good buddy of mine, Sam Wershing, took both Clase and Devin Williams on the turn. Like people are like when the Clase pick went, everybody was like, okay. And then when he took Devin Williams too, we're like, whoa, I would really like this team a lot more if he had taken, and he's a Mariners fan, if he had taken Logan Gilbert instead of Devin Williams or instead of Clase, and then instead of taking Sandy Alcantara later, like, taking, I don't know, like, just any hitter. I feel like this team looks a lot better. It's just that pitching for me, like, or the starting pitching, the closing is obviously great, but the starting pitching to me is just lacking with this roster. So
it's an incohesive mess for me. Like this team, and I love Sam, so sorry now that I know.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy. I just it's there's not a lot of combo players. It's a lot of guys who do like one thing. It's a Victor Robles here and Suarez there, and like it's just a bunch of guys who don't really like Tovar and Steer and McLean, guys. Some guys I had question marks about. I don't know. Tani, who if he's healthy, obviously he's awesome, but I don't know if he is. I've got some health concerns with Devin Williams. Why take 2 closers that early? I don't know. It's not my kind of team.
Yeah, this reminds me, and I think it was Dave Chauvin, who took in a main event in Vegas a few years ago, like took the top 2 closers off the board, like with pick 15, 16. And that to me just feels like you're going to set yourself up for deficiencies in other places.
Yes, for sure.
I'm totally fine taking an early closer. Like if you want to take a closer on that 2-3 turn, like Sam did, I have no problem with that. I know you're not going to do that necessarily.
I'm not saying it's a flawed philosophy. I'm just not going to do it myself.
Yeah. But I think taking 2 is a flawed philosophy. You just leave too much talent on the board.
Correct.
It just, if he'd even like, I don't love the Sandy Alcantara pick because I just think you're asking a lot from him as your number 3 starter. But if he just took, Trey Turner was available at the 2-3 turn.
Yeah. Why? I mean, even Wyatt Langford, I would have taken. I don't know, Machado.
You're a Michael Harris guy. I like
Harris. Yep.
Like there's a lot of guys that could have gone at that 2-3 turn that I think would have made Sam's team a lot better.
Yeah.
Okay, so team 2: Bobby Witt, Jackson Merrill, Logan Gilbert, Garrett Cole, Rossiel Iglesias. What do you think of team 2?
So I definitely like this a lot more. I love the 1-2 punch of Witt and Merrill. That is ideal for me. If he had done, Langford in the 3rd or Machado, I would really love it. But Garrett Cole is, Logan Gilbert is really good. He got Rossiel Iglesias and then later got Trevor McGill. He got 2 solid closers. I like that. I do not like Garrett Cole, so I just don't like that pick. And then especially not pairing Cole with Brian Wu. That's way too much injury. And then the next pitcher he took was Yu Darvish, who, granted, for where Yu Darvish is going, I like him a lot. But you're pairing Darvish with Cole and Wu, and there's a lot of injury risk. And then your next pitcher is Bubba Chandler, and then Justin Verlander. It's like there's just so much injury risk in that rotation that I don't think that this team's going to be able to hang. But I really like the balance on offense between Witt and Merrill, Ozuna, Dylan Cruz, Josh Lowe, Parker Meadows. I really like that.
Yeah, I mean, I like this team overall. Spoiler alert, this is not my team either. This is the return. Do you already know who my team is?
I haven't looked ahead, so no. But I know as
Okay.
I'm going through it, I know it's not yours.
Yeah. So because Woo's on it, right? Like if
Woo's on there, Cole's on there at a normal
Yeah.
price. Like, I know who you're going to take ish.
Yeah. So this is the returning champ of WERF team. I actually really like this team. I don't know that I'm taking Cole in the 4th round either. I think I'd have a really tough time doing that, especially after taking Logan Gilbert. I feel like, okay, my pitching's probably okay here. And, maybe I'm taking, I'm trying to see, Lawrence Butler right here is probably where I would have gone, but, or maybe a Michael King or something like that if I'm going to go pitching. But I think overall, this is a pretty good team. I think the only issue I have is I feel like this pitching staff has a ton of injury risk. I love Logan Gilbert, but Garrett Cole, Brian Wu, now Trevor McGill with the mysterious ailment, though we didn't know about that on Sunday. Yu Darvish, Bubba Chandler, who may not start the year who's not going to start the year in the majors.
Were you not listening? I literally just said all of this.
I know. Well, I know. I'm just repeating it.
I thought you were going through this.
After Logan Gilbert, is there a single pitcher on this roster that I'm not afraid? Like, I don't think there's a single pitcher on this roster.
Well, I mean, Iglesias, I don't have any concerns about.
Sorry, starter on this roster.
I'm
not petrified about.
No.
So I like the offense a lot.
Yeah,
like, I really do. And I actually like the Verlander pick if, in round 22, because I think Verlander, if he's healthy and he seems like he is healthy entering the season, like in San Francisco, could be actually a decent innings eater at least. But every single one of these pitchers, until you get to Simeon Woods Richardson, who could not be in the rotation,
right,
is like scary as hell. So,
I mean, you took 40-year-old Charlie Morton and Tristan Tommy John McKenzie. I mean, like, what are we doing here?
Yeah. No, I'm not a big fan of this team. So, or at least the pitching. The offense I like. The offense I like a lot. But like, I think I'd rather, instead of Brian Wu, like, give me Zach Gallen. Instead of, well, actually, I think Yu Darvish is fine where he went, but I just feel like he loaded up the offense a little bit too much. I think he should have addressed pitching in those rounds like 12 through 18 that he didn't. All right, let's go to team 3. Soto, Crochet, Wyatt Langford, James Wood, Roki Sasaki. And then Spencer Strider, Tyler Glasnow, Shane McClanahan.
Yeah,
this is my team either.
This team was fire through the first 4 rounds, and then we get to round
5. The first 4 rounds is fantastic.
I know, and then we get to rounds 5 through 12, and it just literally went off a cliff. Soto,
it keeps going too. Oh
I know. Oh, I saw, and yes, I know this is not your team. Okay, so Soto, Crochet, Langford, and Wood. That's fucking awesome. I love that so much.
That is, yeah.
And then Sasaki, Strider, Glasnow, McClanahan. My fucking God, what are we doing and why? I mean, you guys already know. I don't feel like I really need to expand on that. And then his closers are Alexis Diaz, who's a monster risk because of his skills, followed by Kirby Yates, who's not even the closer, and Camilo Duvall, who's also not the closer. I know you like Orion Kerkering, but he's also not the closer. And, I mean, it's just – this team just really turned to shit. I mean, he's even got other – I mean, my God, how many injury risks can he put on one team? He's also got Neto on there. I mean,
yeah, that's what I mean. It gets worse. Christian Carcino-Strand missed almost the entire last season. Like, Christopher Morel is just a skills risk, and like it's hard because there's certain guys that I really like, kind of late in terms of who I really like those first 4 picks, like you mentioned, and then I really like a lot of the late picks randomly, right? Like, I love Christian Campbell, right? I love Orion Kerkering as a spec. Kobe Mayo is a really interesting spec. Where's the middle of this roster is really scary, especially the pitching, right? Like, I love Garrett Crochet, but like, there's risk in Garrett Crochet. You know, like Roki Sasaki might be amazing. He might not be amazing. We have no idea what he is. When is Spencer Strider going to be ready? Like, is Tyler Glasnow's elbow going to explode? Is Shane McClanahan? Like, this feels like a YOLO pitching staff. Like, it is just like, straight crazy. And then Kirby Yates as your second. Wait, no, is your first closer? No, second closer. Alexis Diaz, as you talked about, like being a risky closer. This guy could end up with 25 saves.
Yeah,
that is
25 might be aggressive. He could end up with fucking 8 saves. I mean, I'm with you on this. All right, let's go to team 4, and maybe we'll find a team that you love. Maybe we'll find my team that you love. Well, so I'm looking at this team, and go ahead and rattle off the first several picks.
Judge, Riley, Trey Turner, Mason Miller, Andres Munoz, Aaron Nola, Hunter Green.
Yeah, and so looking for Justin checkpoints, we've got Trey Turner.
Yes, we do.
We've got Kerry Carpenter.
Yes, we do.
And we've got Colt Keith.
Yes, we do. However, there are some red flags on whether this is a Justin Mason team or not.
Correct. Yeah, and so I'm wondering if the red flags were because those were your directive to take those players, because I don't think you would take Mason Miller, or maybe not. I don't even know if you'd take Munoz there. Hunter Green, I don't think you would take. I don't think you're particularly high on Casas. So yeah, I can't decide right now because again, I don't know what directive you were given from the owner, so I don't know if this is the team that you drafted or not. But it's got a lot of Justin Mason guys on it.
I can tell you the two. Well, there's 3 really big red flags that it's not my team, and it is not my team. But
I didn't think it was, but the fact that it had those 3 on it, I was like,
This is filled with, like I said, Trey Turner the third was an absolute gift that they were given. I don't have a problem with Mason Miller in the 4th, though I would not do a 4-5 turn of Miller Munoz. I just think the red flags are I would not take Aaron Judge ahead of Jose Ramirez.
Oh.
And I would not take Tristan Casas even on Henry's team. And I definitely would not take Pete Crow Armstrong on. Like, I wouldn't draft Pete Crow Armstrong for my worst enemy. Like those are the 3 big red flags. However, all in all, while I don't love certain picks, I actually really like this draft. Kerry Carpenter, love that. Colt Keith later. I like the Jordan Walker gamble and the Jackson Jobe pick. Like, the back half of the draft was really fun and interesting. I love the start in turn. Like, I'm not drafting Judge ahead of Jose Ramirez, but I think Judge is.
I love Judge.
Well worth. Like, he's well worth that pick, right? And especially when you go Judge, Riley, Turner, fantastic. And not taking a starting pitcher until the 6th round. I like the pairing of Aaron Nola and Hunter Green. Like, I think that is a fun little pairing. I wish instead of maybe a Shane Baz, he went with a kind of innings eater, kind of workhorse kind of guy, like Zach Eflin, Kevin Gausman, Seth Lugo all go in the next round. I would have rather seen that. But ultimately, I really like this team. This is Blake Meyer's team, who's a really good podcaster. Fake baseball podcast, and analyst in the industry. Super nice guy too. Got to meet him in New York last year.
Okay. Yeah, I love the start. I don't, I'm not taking any Mason Miller. I do like Munoz. Nola is fine. I don't think there's other guys that take over him, like Bivey or Hunter Brown. Hunter Green I will not be taking him. I'm okay with Casas if I miss out on all the other first basemen, which it kind of looks like happened. Like Vinny P went, Christian Walker, Cody Bellinger.
Yeah, there was a stretch of like first basemen that all went in that round. It was like Jake Berger, Vinny P, Josh Naylor, Christian Walker, and we were joking because Team 8 is Ryan Bloomfield, as I mentioned before, and he was on the live stream, and I was like, you have to take a first baseman. Naylor, Walker, Bellinger all went right in a row. I was like, take Tristan Casas. And he was like, no way. And then 4 picks later, he goes. So,
but he took Christian Yelich. So I don't know how much better that is. But
he agonized over that pick for sure. He was like, I don't know. Like, it's it's so late at this point.
He took Freddie Freeman in the second, so.
Yeah, I know. It was a joke mostly.
Oh, okay, so. Okay. Yeah. So, anyways, 2-4. Like I like some of the back, like you said, some of the back half picks. Between Jackson Jobe, I like the Jordan Walker. I like Jakob Peterson a lot. I like the Ryan Weathers pick a lot. I like the Seth Halverson pick. Like I think that's the Rockies closer that you're getting in round 28. So I know it's the Rockies closer. I don't care. If you're taking him as a closer 3, do it. So there's some stuff I like here. I'm not in love with it, but it's probably the best team so far.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was the best team of the first 4 that was being drafted. Let's go to team 5. Jose Ramirez, Jarren Duran, Jazz Chisholm, Wilson Contreras, Johan Duran, Luis Robert, Max Fried. What do you think of this team?
Yeah, another one that's not you.
Which one was the reason why you thought it wasn't me?
Wait, is it you? Jazz?
No, it's not me.
Oh, I was gonna say, yeah. Like you're not taking Jazz. I mean, I see J-Ram at the beginning.
Yeah, I do love J-Ram, and I love Jarren Duran. Like the first 2, I remember I think even saying like, "Ooh, I love this start."
If Jazz and Robert somehow stay healthy, that's a hell of a 4 between J-Ram, Duran, Jazz, and Robert. And what the hell, Wilson Contreras in the 4th. Wow, that is early.
Yeah, that was a huge. Like, and we even said on the live stream, like Ryan. I love Wilson Contreras, but it is clear everybody loves Wilson Contreras because that was really early.
That's way too early, man. Way too early. Joan Duran, fine. He's not going to get every save, but he's going to give you great stats, and he's going to get enough saves there. Fried is my SP1. I don't like. Steele is fine. Gallen, I think Gallen might be even like a little overrated, but he's not like bad or anything.
I don't think Gallen's overrated, but that's a discussion for a different show.
Jared Jones, I was actually talking to the boys about him today. I'm conflicted on him. He's talking about adding another pitch though, so that would be good. Bo Bichette, I like taking a shot on him at that point in the draft. Senga, we're definitely on him. I like Austin Wells as a catcher too. Romano, we've talked about. Don't like that. But round 15, not the worst time if you're going to take an injury-prone closer.
He fell quite a bit. There was a lot of talk about.
He should fall quite a bit. To be fair, I love Clark Schmidt, Ryan Mountcastle. I can't trust the PT, but I like the talent. I like Reese Olson's talent. There's some picks here I like. Bayo in 25th, even with the shoulder soreness, I think that's fine. I just he didn't get a second baseman though, clearly, and he picked Massey, McNeil, and Julian to kind of try to cover that up. I don't know that that's a good enough job, but it's another team that I don't love, but it's not the worst.
Yeah, no, I'm there with you. I don't love a lot of these picks. I'm not in on Bo Bichette. I just don't know what he is at this point of his career. Obviously, you mentioned Kodai Senga, Jordan Romano, 2 guys that I'm staying far away from this year. Tyler Fitzgerald is terrible at baseball. He had a really, really hot 3-week stretch and was terrible before and after that. I think he will continue to be terrible in 2025. I liked certain aspects of this draft. Like the first 2 were great, but then I feel like he took some reaches. I really kind of wish, hey, instead of Jazz Chisholm, take George Kirby or Corbin Burns with that 3rd round pick, and then instead of Max Fried, take Marcus Semien, or Jake Berger or someone like that. Then I'm feeling a lot better about this team. But not my favorite. Let's move on to Team 6, and we'll talk about Gunnar Henderson, Matt Olson, Rafael Devers, Blake Snell, Michael King, Luis Castillo, Marcus Semien.
Yeah. So right off the bat, the issue is that this team clearly just straight faded closers.
Yeah.
So
does not take a relief pitcher.
At
all. Oh my God, I didn't even realize it wasn't at all.
Yeah, at all. I went all the way down, and there's no relievers on this team. So I hate that because this is an overall league, right? Like this is not,
Yeah.
you're not drafting for it's not a standalone league. And I hope that they understand that. Like you really have a hard time winning an overall with a 0 in any category. So yeah, that's right off the bat. That's a huge negative. I also don't love the average on this team. Like I'm just not seeing any guys that are really like average buoys. Like, Gunnar Henderson should be good, but then, Olsen, Devers, but like Devers is injured. I'm not drafting Devers anywhere close to the 3rd round. I like the Semyon pick. I love the Snell pick in the 4th. I love the King pick in the 5th. Castillo is the number 3 is fine. It's actually, that's good, I would say. But yeah, not having any closers here, and I don't love the average, and I don't think there's enough steals here either. Like, where's the steals coming from? Henderson a little bit. Like, this team just feels like it didn't really come in with a plan. Like, they're just missing too many things.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. You can't punt saves. This is not a standalone league. And even if you're gonna punt saves, like you should take like some gambles late, right? Like, spend your last 2 or 3 picks on a team or on a guy that you think might like fall into like Jorge Lopez in the 29th round. Like, I mean, Chad Green, like, take some specs that are relievers, but this is not a well-crafted team. I mean, the offense is fine to start. I'm not in on Devers either. Maybe not as low as you are, but I'm definitely not as high as I think the ADP is. I like Gunnar Henderson, like Matt Olson. I think Matt Olson probably a little high here, but like I would rather Jaron Duran there. Marcus Semien is great. Ian Happ, Riley Green are fine. Colton Cowser, I'm a fan. I'm a fan of Helio Ramos, but the pitching's actually not, the starting pitching's not bad either. It's just the closing issue. That's really the big issue. Like here,
it's closing, but I think there's other issues. Like I said,
there are other minor issues, but that could be overcome. I just don't know how you overcome the closing issue.
I mean, I don't know. There's not nearly enough speed here, man. I mean, even if you're gonna say average is okay, there's no steals.
Yeah,
so
that's fair.
You can't punt 2 categories. You can't even punt 1 category. It makes me concerned that this team doesn't understand the rules or how Earth works. I don't know if it's a new team. I don't know who was Team 6.
I honestly can't remember who it was.
Okay, all right. So I'm a little concerned. Maybe JT didn't explain to them how this works when they joined. I don't know.
I can try and go look, but I honestly can't remember.
Yeah.
So however, I will say Team 7, not me again.
I know.
This team, the guy, the draft was scheduled for while he was on a vacation in Hawaii, and so he was drafting from Hawaii and went on and on auto draft a few times. So I think that kind of messed up with his team. A really good analyst, and I'm not gonna drag him or anything like that because, and if I was in Hawaii too, I probably would have probably done the same thing. So we're just gonna skip Team 7 and go to Team 8, which was Ryan Bloomfield. Okay. So again, not me. Ellie De La Cruz, Freddie Freeman, Manny Machado, Yonir Diaz, Pablo Lopez, Bailey Ober, Felix Bautista. What do you think?
All right. So let's see. He's got 2 closers. He's got Bautista and Estevez. I do not like the Bautista pick, but I love the Estevez pick, especially.
It was really late. Bautista is going way later in the ADP. So
again, like for me, when you see a guy going late, it doesn't mean it's a good value though. Like that's fair. It's a perceived value, but it's not actual value. There's a 0% chance that I'm taking Felix Bautista with Bybee and Hunter Brown still on the board, and Joe Ryan and Schwellenbach. Like there's no way I'm taking a closer who I don't think is healthy over several stud starters, even with Pablo Lopez and Bailey Ober already on the board, who I both love, both of those guys, by the way. So like I like a lot of what Ryan did here. Like he started with Ellie, but Ryan knows how to build a team. So then he took Freeman in the second. He said, okay, I'm deficient. I've got plenty of steals. Let's get Freeman. And then he took Machado in the third to get some pop going. so Ryan understands how to do that. You know, he's a very good player. He got Yainer Diaz in the 4th. That's not the direction I would have gone, but I mean,
he got batting average from a position that doesn't get batting average usually.
Right. It's too high for me, but I get it.
It's too high for me as well, but I understand why he did it.
Yeah. And then you got Lopez and Ober. I love that pairing. The Batista Yelich picks, though, I don't like that at all. Chapman and Bogart's fine. He got Christopher Sanchez as his SP3. I like that. Castellanos, very solid player. I love Estevez as an SP or as a closer too. Evaldi, solid. Soler, there's the bit, like the Soler pick really brings it together because that's another big power source that he was missing. So, started deficient in power, but then added Machado, Chapman, Castellanos, and Soler. He had a plan to catch up there. Love them, but Lodolo pick, love the Gore pick. Trevor Story in the 19th is solid. I love the Conforto pick. A lot of people don't realize Conforto going from one of the worst parks for left-handed power to one of the best parks for left-handed power. That's a sneaky pick.
Yeah.
I love Otto Lopez. I love the Fouché pick. You got a closer in round 24. So yeah, this is definitely my favorite team so far.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite teams. And I really liked it from the jump. When Ellie fell to him at 8, I was like, I mean, I don't have I'm again not an Ellie guy, but if I'm sitting there at 8 and Ellie's there, I'm probably taking him too. But I'm doing exactly the same type of thing that he just did, or that he did. And the whole reason he joined me on live stream was like, I was kind of glowing about that start. I was like, if you're going to draft Ellie, drafting a guy like Freddie Freeman, the next pick is money in the bank. Like that is exactly what you should be doing when you draft an Ellie. So I love that pairing. I really love the pitching staff of Pablo Lopez, Bailey Ober, Christopher Sanchez. He sniped me a few times, and I was a little bit unhappy with Ryan just in general, but overall I really liked his team.
Spoiler alert, I know Team 9 is also not here.
Okay, so Fernando Tatis, Ketel Marte, George Kirby, Yamamoto, Teoscar, Seiya Suzuki, Logan Webb. Why do you know it's not my team?
A few reasons. You would not take Ketel Marte. I don't think you'd take Tatis in the 1st. I don't think you'd take Ketel in the 2nd. Lucas Urseg in the 10th. There's no way.
Mm-hmm. It's going to become very apparent which one's my team.
Yeah,
very soon. So.
I know. Geloff in the 15th. There's no way you do that. They did take Festa on the 21st. I saw that and I was like, and then I looked at the rest of it. I was like, no, never mind.
Yeah, not my team. So.
Right. Yeah. So again, this is another team that just okay. I guess they kind of tried a closer. Like they took a shot on Urseg in the 10th and Justin Martinez in the 14th, but that's two very shaky situations that might literally be zero closers. They did take Jorge Lopez in the 30th, which I like. But overall, I don't like this approach at all. I know you love Kirby in the 3rd. I do not. Yamamoto in the 4th. Okay. Logan Webb as your 3rd, but you're kind of already Kirby and Yamamoto. I don't think you're getting enough. Kirby and Webb is not a good pairing. You want one of those two to be a high K guy, and they didn't.
Yep.
And then they didn't get any Ks later, and then they got another low K guy with Waka. So it's just and then Tobias Myers. There's just too many low K guys here, and then offensively, Tatis, Marte, Teoscar, and Seiya Suzuki is very solid. Bellinger, I like. Bregman.
I don't think there's enough speed here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was like. I don't know. There's good power. The average is good, but the speed is not enough here.
Yeah, I agree. I co-sign everything you said. I don't think there's much more that needs to be said. Let's go to Team 10. We got Corbin Carroll, Zach Wheeler, Edwin Diaz, Jose Altuve, Lawrence Butler, Mark Vientos, Tanner Bybee, Christian Walker.
Okay. There's a lot I like here. But I'm looking and I'm like, is this you? Because I don't there's no real Justin Mason standout picks that I'm seeing.
Lawrence Butler, Tanner Bybee,
Are you
Zach
that?
Eflin,
Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
JJ Bleday,
Without looking at the rest of it, I don't.
DJ Hers.
Okay, I saw hers. Yeah. Okay, so this is you.
No, it's not me.
I was
Kyle
gonna say,
Harrison and Luis Angelo Cunha on this team. This is definitely not me.
You don't like Luis? Why not?
I don't think he's going to be in the majors.
They've said he's going to have a major role. I don't know how he's going to do that from the minors.
I don't know where they. I mean, if he is, he's going to have a major role as like a super utility guy. I don't.
Either way, that's round 26. So yeah. I mean, I don't personally. I'm not drafting Altuve this year. I
actually like this team quite a bit. My biggest issue is Fairbanks. I don't trust him as a closer. But other than that, like I actually think this team is totally fine. I actually like this.
I don't even trust Diaz. I don't trust Diaz as a closer either, to be fair. But I love the Carroll. Altuve fine. Butler, Vientos, Christian Walker. I love all those guys. I even like Shailen Bangaliers.
Yep, I love Bangaliers. That's one of my guys again. Like this definitely could have been one of my teams.
I know there's a lot of solid picks. Pena, Edmund, I love. Gleyber Torres, Yandy Diaz getting that late. I mean, there's a lot to like here. So on the pitching side, like you said, Fairbanks in the 10th as a closer too, not terrible. I love the Wheeler Bybee, but there's just not enough on the pitching side. Like it's Wheeler Bybee, and then you don't see another one until Eflin, and then Nestor, who is my number one prospect to get TJ this year. So I don't like that. Luzardo, another big injury risk. There's just not enough on the pitching side.
Yeah. All right, moving on to team 11. We've got Mookie Betts, William Contreras, Michael Harris, O'Neill Cruz, Brent Rooker, Ryan Walker, Hunter Brown. This is not my team.
I know. Yeah, that I know. So I love the Betts, Contreras, Harris. O'Neill Cruz is fine. I don't love it. But then Rooker in the 5th, I like. Ryan Walker is a solid closer. Kenley Jansen is a good closer too. I love Hunter Brown. Like he's my guy, but Hunter Brown, Carlos Rodon, Sean Manaea, Nick Pivetta, Arrighetti, Rasmussen, like he tried to catch up. I don't know if he did enough, but it's not bad. I'm not a Naylor guy, but honestly, this team probably is the team to beat so far that I've seen.
Oh, really? I don't think this team is that good, particularly.
Really? You don't like Harris, so that's
I don't like Harris. I think that is too early for William Contreras. Honestly, it's too early.
It is, but I don't love the guys that go in that second round area, anyways. Like, I wouldn't have picked Contreras. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying, like, you're getting a stud catcher.
Yeah,
you're getting a ton of combo guys between Betts, Harris, and Cruz, and you're getting a lot of power from Rooker and Contreras, and the average is great there too. Naylor power and average. Brandon Lau will give you more power. So I mean, I think that they did a decent job of trying to catch up on the pitching side. And I like the closers. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the pitching is going to be a major problem. I think the ratios are going to be really, really tough on this roster. The other thing I have an issue with, yes, he starts with Mookie Betts, William Contreras, and Michael Harris, and then abandons batting average. He puts on multiple guys that may hit 200, and I don't know that I trust Michael Harris to get Michael Harris and Mookie Betts to volume the way that they need to offset those issues. So I think the foundation's good, but then he put some guys that, especially with playing time risks, like Tyler O'Neill, Brandon Lau, Max Muncy, like are all guys that probably aren't going to have good batting averages for you, and also may not get a lot of plate appearances for you.
Yeah, I don't know. Lau and Muncy are both second half of the draft picks. I don't know. Like, I think that the average is going to be middle of the road at worst. I don't think it's like going to be a bad average team. So, I mean, it depends, I guess. Like, it depends on whether Betts and Harris, hit 280 or 300. It would depend on some other things. Rooker should hit higher than, he shouldn't hit like 230 or anything. We'll see. I do like it, though. I like it a lot more than you do.
Okay. Team 12, Tariq Skubal, Ronald Acuna Jr., Corey Seager, Chris Sale, Sal Perez, Anthony Santander, Jake Berger. It's not me because Acuna goes in the second round here.
Yeah, I know it's not you. There's other signs too, but all you need to do is see the Acuna there. So like let's see for closers. We've got Ryan Presley and then AJ Puck. That's rough. And then Liam Hendricks. I don't even think that Puck and Hendricks are the closers there, so that's going to be rough. Starters, you start with Skubal and Sale. I love that. I'm not looking to start with the starter. Like Skubal, Acuna is like a nightmare for me. Like I would hate that start, but in terms of starters, I think Skubal and Sale are both great. Grayson Rodriguez, injury concern there with the lat, throwing as hard as he does, and then you don't have another starter until Woodruff. So that's really what the major concern is that your SB4 is Woodruff, Kumar Rocker, who's not in the rotation, is your SB5, and then you got Clay Holmes, Bobby Miller. It's just there's a lot of concern there. On the offensive side, obviously Acuna being injured, Seager's got some injury concerns. I still love Seager though. Sal Perez, solid. Santander, big power. Berger, big power. But there's a concern with the average on this team too, especially with Randy and Samuel now. I don't like Bryson Stott at all. Rengifo's solid, but it's Jesus Sanchez, another average risk. Buxton, same thing. There's a lot of injury risk and average risk on this team.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I think the average is going to be an issue for him, and I don't necessarily love the risk level in the pitching either. I like Skubal, but I think there is risk there. I like Sale. I think there is risk there. We saw the risk last year with Grayson Rodriguez missing time. Brandon Woodruff, I don't even know when he's going to be ready.
Yeah.
Kumar Walker, like you said, is not going to be in the rotation. I already kind of talked about Clay Holmes being a guy I'm probably just going to miss out on. Bobby Miller is probably not going to be in the rotation unless he looks great in spring. Ryan Nelson's not in the rotation. Hayden Birdsong's probably not in the rotation. Lucas Giolito's coming off of Tommy John. Jack Leiter not in the rotation. Zebby Matthews not in the rotation. I don't know if this team has 9 active pitchers to start the season.
Yeah. And granted, there's going to be a lot of fabbing going on before the season starts. So when you draft in mid-February, that happens. But
also like when you draft someone like Acuna in the second round, you have to go risk averse, and they did not go risk averse here.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So team 13, we've got Julio Rodriguez, Jackson Chourio, Pete Alonso, Jacob deGrom, Junior Caminero, Jordan Westberg, Joe Ryan. What do you think?
I looked at the last 3 teams, and man, I don't like none of them stand out to me as Justin Mason teams. So
I mean, one should stand out as the Justin Mason team because it is just littered with Justin Mason guys.
Man. Yeah, well, this isn't it.
This isn't it. No, this one is not it.
I mean, you just look at the catchers, Gabriel Moreno and Alejandro Kirk, and I just listened to you.
We literally just talked about not really drafting them. If you're looking at catchers, you're going to have a problem in terms of finding my team. Because I am not a big catcher guy in general.
Okay, so team 15 it is. All right, so
there you go. You finally
team 30. No, I mean I knew that was it, but at the same time, there's some other picks there that. Oh no, never mind. Okay, I misread something. Okay, now it looks like a team. Okay, so team 13 started with Julio and Chourio, and Pete Alonso. The Julio Churio, it's not. I probably wouldn't pair those two. Like I'd probably take. Oh man, I don't know. But it's good. Like you're getting a lot of stats from those categories there. A little bit of maybe you get Alonso, then Caminero, then Westberg, but your SP1 is DeGrom. That's a problem for me. And then your SP2 is Joe Ryan. I like Joe Ryan. Hoffman and Tanner Scott. There's a lot of injury risk with Hoffman and a lot of closing risk with Tanner Scott.
Roll risk.
Roll risk. Yeah. Lugo, Gavin Williams, big risk. Love the Grant Holmes pick. Montes is obviously dead pick. I don't love what they did at the end of the draft at all. I don't like any pick after Caleb Durbin, pretty much. But I do like the Holmes Durbin.
You don't like Trevor Larnach?
No.
Oh, I'm serious. I like.
Oh, you're serious? Oh no.
Yeah. He's gonna platoon bat, but he's gonna be third in that lineup. There's power in there's a good approach and hit tool. Like, I think he's actually a pretty sneaky guy.
Okay. I'll look into it more. I'm not really a believer, but I do love the Aranda Holmes Durbin. That trio is I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also like Brooks Lee, but then I stopped liking things. So
yeah, I love the Isak Paredes, and you brought Quan in there. I was gonna say it needs some average, and I saw Quan, but I don't know if this team has enough average even with Quan.
I think this team majorly has pitching problems.
Yes, the pitching side makes it a no-fly zone for me. Period.
If you're gonna take DeGrom as your number one, which I'm not opposed to. I'm not saying I'm going to, but I'm not opposed to.
The only way DeGrom works is if he's at most your number two.
I think for me, like, he should be your number two, but if he's not going to be your number two, your next pick needs to be a starting pitcher that can volume.
I would say your next two.
Yeah. So, like, DeGrom, Pablo Lopez, like
Bailey Ober, yeah, something like that.
Bailey Ober, something like that. Somewhere where you feel like you're getting some good volume there, I think is important. So I think that's where he kind of fell short. Like Joe Ryan is fine, but like I would not have waited till the 13th round to grab my third pitcher with DeGrom leading off my rotation. Right. And then Hoffman scares the crap out of me, and I agree that Tanner Scott's got role issues. I think he's going to start the year with a job, but that could change really quickly.
Yeah.
So, all right, team 14, and then we'll get to my team. Francisco Lindor, Yordan Alvarez, Cole Reagans, Dylan Cease, Kyle Schwarber, Robert Torres, Freddie Peralta.
Yeah. So I see Robert Suarez as a closer, and I don't see another closer. Oh,
Aroldis Chapman. Yeah, and then he also grabbed Jason Adam in case of.
I actually love. Yeah, I love those two picks. I love that in the 21st and 22nd. So I'm okay with that. The Suarez pick scares me a bit because they're talking, especially in the sixth round. That's pretty early. They're talking about possibly trading him to the Cubs, and I don't know what that situation looks like. But I like that he paired Suarez with Jason Adams. So if he does get moved, he's at least got Adam, who should close in San Diego. Maybe not though. Cole Reagans, Dylan Cease, Freddie Peralta is a solid top three. Didn't take anyone else until Barrios, and then I don't like Mitch Keller, Severino. Uceda and Chad Green. So he's obviously planning to play a bunch of relievers instead of he doesn't have a lot of starters on this team. I hate the Jordan pick in the second. It's too much risk for me, but I love Lindor, Schwarber, Vinny P, Real Muto, Trout. Love the Goldschmidt pick. Dominguez, he took a rise, so obviously don't love that. Ryan McMahon, not in love. It's kind of just a blah team overall for me.
Yeah, I kind of felt the same way. I did get sniped by this guy a few times. I wanted Lindor on that 15-16 turn. Right. I was really kind of excited to start Lindor in Lindor Skeens or Lindor Guerrero. and unfortunately, I did not get to do that. Other times I was sniped G2 Ramuto in the 9th round.
Okay.
That was I had him all queued up and was really, really upset when that one happened. Paul Goldschmidt also in the 11th was a little bit of a snipe, even though I didn't really need Goldschmidt at that point because I already had Vlad Guerrero Jr. Matt Wallner in the 19th I liked. And then I think that was about it. Not a team I loved overall, but he did take some of my picks, so I wanted to.
Yeah.
I wanted to mention that. So my team is Team 15, or Henry's team that I was drafting for him is Team 15. I started off Paul Skeens, Vlad Guerrero Jr., C.J. Abrams, Josh Hader, Bryce Miller, Brenton Doyle, Spencer Schwellenbach. I talked to Henry before, and I asked him, I was like, hey, listen, I've seen a lot of these drafts where at 15 you're going to have a choice between Scooble and Skeens and then hitters. What do you want to do? He goes, I would love to get Skeens, or Scooble at that spot and then pair him with a hitter. And so that's what I did. What do you think of this team?
Yeah, so that's why I was confused because I was like, I don't think you're going to take Skeens in the first. Like, I could see you taking Vlad, but, maybe Vlad and Churio or Vlad and I don't know. But I guess considering the hitters that were on the board, I can see going Skeens there. You got Hader, you got Bryce Miller, and you got power and average with Vlad. You've got Abrams and Doyle both as 4 category guy for Abrams at least, but getting a lot of steals and homers there. Schwellenbach as your 3rd is spectacular. Royce Lewis in the 8th surprised me a bit.
Because of the injury profile?
Yeah, I mean, again, 8th round, we've talked about him. I like getting Royce Lewis late. Is this normal time for him, or it feels early? But
that's a really good question. So I believe it was above his ADP.
Okay,
but you have to also consider that I'm not going to get to pick for 30 picks.
Yeah.
Here, and I know he's not making it back around to me.
The Bryce Terang was also a pick that confused me. I didn't know you were in on Bryce Terang.
I'm a big Bryce Terang guy. I was a big Bryce Terang guy last year. Plenty of speed, but I think the batting average will be better than it was in the second half. He, again, a guy who makes a lot of in-zone contact.
Okay, so my question is, why do you need Abrams, Doyle, Terang, Volpe, McCarthy, and Jacob Young? That is a shit ton of steals, sir.
So if I made a mistake, and I think I did make a mistake in this draft, is
Dylan Moore? What are you smoking here? You were like, I guess I need more steals.
At the end of the draft, I was just like, I want someone who can cover second base. Because my MI was shortstop, and when we got to that point in the draft, I was like, they're really, or maybe it wasn't second base. I can't remember what it was because I saw Kim covered second. But I just figured, I'll grab him now, and then Henry can drop, whoever I didn't have a list of end game sleepers for him, so I figured he's going to drop most of these guys anyways at the end of the draft. I think my big mistake was in that 9-10 turn. I really wanted Real Muto there. And when I got sniped there, I was like, oh, there wasn't really somebody who stuck out to me as this is the guy I need to be drafting here.
I'm actually surprised you didn't like Tyler Stevenson. He's been your boy in the past, and he probably.
I actually almost took Stevenson, and I really, really debated it. And I wish I had. Yeah. Because I feel like if I take Stevenson instead of Terang, or if I take Stevenson instead of Volpe, I can get an MI later. There's a ton of MIs, especially at second base, that I really like later. And I think that was the big mistake for me in this draft. Other than that, I actually really like this team. I would be totally fine rolling into my season with it. I think Henry, the one guy, he was like, oh, I probably wouldn't have done it, was the Royce Lewis pick. So, and let me look up Lewis's.
Yeah, I think it's going to be short on power.
And that
on average.
I don't know if it'll be short on average, but it definitely, I think, is short on power.
I will say, like, you got a ton of starters that I like. I mean, but even Skeens, Bryce Miller, Schwellenbach, and then, Gaussman in the 13th. You got Heel, Springs. I don't know about the health, but Bradford, Nick Martinez, solid. Max Meyer, good shot to take. You even got Kyle Finnegan late, which I love. You got Bednar in the 12th as your closer too, behind Hader. I like that a lot. So I really think you did a good job on the pitching side. I like a lot of your hitters, but it doesn't feel balanced enough for me.
Yeah, that's fair. It definitely wasn't. It definitely didn't go 100% according to plan. But I like a lot of the pieces. I'm hoping Henry can make it work. So it's projected to finish 4th in the league according to Fantasy Pros, which means absolutely nothing.
Right. I was gonna say I'm upset when they give me a good rating. So.
Oh, I actually, what I should do is I should see if they'll be like this analyst likes your team more than any other analyst. It won't be me because I don't put my ranks on Fantasy Pros.
Okay.
But I want to see who,
like, the ranks are one thing, but that doesn't. I mean, I know that they're not going to have every analyst look at every team, but you have to see how the team works, how it's constructed together. You can't just say, okay, they have a bunch of guys that this guy likes, so he likes the team.
Yeah, no, what it does is it just kind of like sees where you took guys and
ranking. Yeah,
Ariel Cohen likes my team more than any other analyst. So
okay, I
like Ariel, so he's a good team.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's definitely one of the strongest teams in the league. So I mean, it's a good job. It's definitely way too stolen base happy and not enough.
Yeah.
Average.
I feel like my pitching is really good. Obviously, I got stolen bases. I think power is going to be an issue for Henry. So, so he's going to have to address that in season. Sorry, buddy. But that is the entire draft because I had the last team of that draft. Next week we'll get to talk about our own teams and our own drafts.
Yeah.
I think we'll probably just do news next week. And then we'll just cover Earth League drafts. We won't even do the ADP just because they're going to be, I think, 5 or 6 drafts. I think 5 drafts next weekend. So
and if we have time, we could still cover the WHARF draft, which we skipped this week. So
yes, and yeah, we still have to cover the WHARF draft too.
I do feel bad about that because I really like WHARF because like
they've got the coolest name.
Well, it is the coolest name. For those of you who don't know, it's the Waffle House area Roto Fantasy. I don't know if that's the coolest name or Surf, which is Canadian Roto Fantasy.
That is pretty good too.
They're both top 2 names. They're phenomenal names. But no, WHARF is a really, because I'm in their Discord. They never they just kept me in their Discord, so I never left. And like I like the way that they interact with each other. They're all trying to help each other. They've got like people like they're active. Ben Bingham is a phenomenal commissioner. He's on top of stuff all the time.
Yeah.
Like he's one of my favorite commissioners. He's a lot more responsive than your bitch ass. So like I really like WHARF. So yeah, I do feel bad about not going over their team. So by the way, which team other than yours would you say is the best team before we leave here in WHARF?
I think Bloomfield.
Team 8.
I think Team 8. Yeah, Team 8. And I didn't do this for the last episode. I'll make sure I do it. I have a link to the draft board that'll go in the rundown. So if people want to go and see and kind of check out the teams, see which ones you like the best, you'll be able to go do that for this draft. But yeah, I think Bloomfield probably was my favorite team. But there were a number of teams. Like I said, this was not an easy draft, and it was a fun draft. Almost everybody in the league was watching the live stream at one point and commenting on it. So I don't know if they just had like a computer open at the draft table or something like that. But yeah, it was a fun draft. I enjoyed being able to kind of sit in and do that. And I'm looking forward, more importantly, to drafting against my own area league here in a few days.
You're lucky you had a little warm up. So that's
yeah. This was like a real life mock draft where people actually cared, and I got a chance to kind of practice and see what I did and didn't like.
How nice for you. Yeah. I would say Team 8 or Team 11, and I know you're surprised that I like 11, but I do.
I don't dislike 11, but I think for me it's team 8.
I think if pressed, I'm gonna go with team 8. Yeah, Bloomfield's team, and like I said, I think your team is good. Just there's a little bit of imbalance there, makes it maybe like my third favorite team probably.
Yeah. All right, that's gonna wrap us up for this episode. Dave, remind everybody where you can be reached, and if you're working on anything, what are you working on?
At RunDMCD on Twitter, and nope, just prepping for the year. Well, actually, you know what? I am working on something. I'm actually considering. I've been asked by people for years to put out like something for my injury risk stuff and other research, and so I'm thinking about. I've never really monetized this. All the information I've given out on podcasts, Twitter has always been free. A lot of people finding ways to monetize, and I think it's probably a good idea to start trying to do that to make some money here. So I might be doing that. I'm working on some lists here that and some strategy tips on how to approach Yahoo leagues, Fantrax leagues, NFBC leagues, advanced strategies, stuff that a lot of people don't know about or talk about. So stuff that can be helpful to people, and stuff that people have asked me in the past about that I've kind of put off, but now I'm thinking I'm trying to move forward on that.
Nice. Well, I'm looking forward to reading that.
All right.
One of these days, I'm gonna do the draft guide again, and I'll have you write a section for that.
Okay.
But unfortunately, just the last few years, it's been a little tough to do that with everything else I've got going on. You can reach me on social media, just Mason FWFB. You can read my written work over at Fangraphs and Fantasy Pros, and obviously on this podcast and the Sleeper and the Bus podcast. That will do it for this episode. For Dave and myself, thank you for listening. Have fantastic baseball off season.